Welcome in. Today, we are tackling a 2025 Dynasty Superflex startup mock draft. This, I believe, is the first one we've done since the NFL draft. So we're going to really try and hone in and focus in and not yap too much off topic because we really want to focus in on some of these new player values and all that good stuff. We have people filling out this draft as we speak. If you guys want to join the draft over on YouTube, it should be in the chat right now. Linked there. You can see the link. You can join the draft. Obviously, take it seriously for the best output for everybody. And after this stream is done, after we're done breaking down a startup mock draft, we are going to swap over to Flock site questions because we have a couple team reviews in the hopper. We also have some trade questions that you guys have submitted as well. So if you do have questions that you want to ask us, if you want to get your team reviewed, the second hour or so of this stream is when we'll be doing that. So after the mock, we'll go over everything. We'll maybe recap some of the teams, and then an hour 15-ish mark, I would imagine we'll probably be finished the mock, and we can go through some team reviews there. And we do have, I think, 5 or 6 team reviews and then a couple of questions that we're going to be going through. So yes, we do need 2 more people for the draft to start. So if you guys do want to join the draft, head on over there, and I will link the way to submit a trade question, submit a review or whatever in the chat as well for those of you guys that are like, oh, I didn't know we could do that. Maybe you want to do that after the stream is done. I will drop that in the chat.
For sure. And great PC of mine, Corey?
What about your PC? Oh, you frozen? Excellent. Absolutely excellent. Yeah, so we're still waiting 3 people at the moment. I will drop this quick times one more in the chat so that people can join up. And you guys can see the rules there. We're going to do Dynasty Superflex, half tight end premium, 3rd round reversal because communism, and start 10. Yeah, some people like 3rd round reversal. I personally don't, but it's honestly
the consensus does.
The consensus prefers 3rd round reversal, so that's fine. We are, I believe, 1 person just backed out of here. So once this is full, I will randomize the draft order and we can get into it. And this will be a good look. We haven't taken a look really at the startup landscape. I mean, Danny and I have our startup rankings up to date. For those of you guys that do want startup rankings, those are available on Flock Fantasy. So I'm gonna randomize this draft order, see where we are. And of course, because of communism, I have the 102, and it's a worse pick because it's 3rd round reversal. This is honestly the only reason
I'll swap with you. I'll swap with you.
The only reaon I don't like 3rd round reversal is because it makes it less enjoyable to get a high pick. That's literally the only reason. It's literally the only reason.
I'll swap with you.
No, let's where we are. Okay, I'm going to be starting the draft here, and got 1:30 on the clock here. I will move this down to 60 seconds just to make it go a little bit faster. And we'll try our very best to focus on what's happening in the draft too, because we have a tendency to go off topic and all this kind of stuff. And we will talk about George Pickens because that did happen last time, or since we last spoke to you guys probably. So we'll talk about the George Pickens effect in Dallas there. And somehow I got Josh Allen at the 1 too. So.
Sorry, I just saw this and I had to laugh.
That's funny.
All right, so we see 4 quarterbacks off the board in a row, along with Jamar Chase. Again, you should see that in a good amount of your leagues here. Now I'm on the clock, and again, if you wanted to go with the quarterback position, I think that would make sense. For me personally, this is where I gear back towards wide receiver. Corey, maybe you take Justin Jefferson. The rifle wide receiver 2 off the board for me is CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, and Danny would have picked George Pickens with the next selection off the board, just so you guys know. That's Danny's wide receiver 4 in his dynasty rankings now.
Yeah, facts. 3.5. Can't be too rude.
No, okay. In all seriousness, let's talk about because this is early round picks. We'll recap it when we get back to our next picks. I moved George Pickens, I believe, I think he was wide receiver 31 before the trade, to now I have him at wide receiver 29. So the only real change for me is that he moved slightly up above Josh Downs and Terry McLaurin, but he's still within the same tier of players to me as he was before. I have him kind of in that range of like a Matthew Golden, a Brandon Ayuk, a George Pickens obviously is in that tier. Terry McLaurin,
I would hope so.
Luther Burden, Jalen Waddle, and those type of guys. I don't think George Pickens sees enough of an upgrade to the point that I would move him into the next tier above. We kind of disagree on the fact that I believe that the Devontae Smith, T. Higgins territory is a little bit beyond where George Pickens is in terms of like a tier gap. But you're obviously more pro George Pickens. For what it's worth, I think he's probably went from like a 12 point per game score to like a 14 to 15 point per game score in this situation.
So it's not like I went crazy here. I upped him, like you said, a guy that I believe I had at 31. Clear situational uptick. I always thought he was more of a high-end 2, complementary 2 to a very good offense rather than being, I would say, overcasted as a true alpha number 1 in Pittsburgh. But we have seen flashes as a year 2 player. This is a guy that had over 1,100 receiving yards on 60-plus catches. I do think going to an offense where you're tethered to a situation with the passing volume that we should expect. Top 5 level passing volume I can expect for the Cowboys this year. Just read the tea leaves of this offseason. They go out there, get a high-profile wide receiver 1, shore up the offensive line. Their current running back stable is made up of Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, and Jaden Blue. They're only invested in terms of draft capital running back is a guy who catches balls out of the backfield better than he does running between the tackles. So I do still think the identity of the Cowboys is they want to throw the football. I liken it to a similar situation to what Michael Gallup was in 2019. We've had this conversation, me and Corey, behind the scenes, but Michael Gallup, if you guys do recall in 2019, vertical X wide receiver, very, very good at contorting his body, getting his feet down on the sideline. Very similar archetype to what Pickens is. In fact, I actually just think Pickens might be a better version of what Michael Gallup was. And Michael Gallup that year was a second-year receiver that had over 1,100 receiving yards, actually had it in 14 games, and he averaged over 15 PPR points per game. So for me personally, if it works out with Pickens, because again, there's still a volatile floor here. I understand he's a little bit of a knucklehead, a little bit of a head case. By the way, Caleb Williams here's free money. A little bit of a knucklehead, a little bit of a head case. The volatile floor does exist. But I do think if he lives up to his potential, lives up to his ceiling, it's going to look similar to that of T. Higgins in Cincinnati. I can't rank him there yet because T. Higgins is a guy I have at 16. You don't have to worry about that floor. That's why there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. Higgins at 16 versus Pickens at 27. But for example, we're talking about Pickens versus Devontae Smith. For me, the difference, again, I still have Devontae Smith higher, but the difference in why I view them in the same tier is, although I view Devontae Smith as a superior player, there is a stark difference in a top 5 volume offense passing-wise versus a bottom 5 offense. And bottom 5 might be putting it kindly to what we can expect from Philly this year.
Yeah, you're talking strictly on volume perspective, not from an efficiency standpoint. I'm a little bit more pessimistic on Pickens. The market hasn't seemed to react very much, which I think is a good thing. Like I really did expect maybe he would go up higher in dynasty rankings. Keep Trade Cut had him 32 before the trade, 31 now. So he hasn't really moved that much, which I don't think it should
be higher though, to be honest.
He should probably be a little bit higher than that, but I don't think it's like an outrageous elite upgrade to the point that he should be. Like I expected when I looked at it, he might be like wide receiver 22 or something after this trade. And it's good that he's not. And I'll just quickly make my case on Pickens because you just kind of, you made your case on it. So I'll go through mine just as why I'm a little bit lower. And I'm actually going to make my selection. And we'll recap the first 2 rounds after this. I'm on the board here. Drake London, Nico Collins go off the board.
FSC League, baby. FSC League. May is a rightful first rounder in these streets.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to go with a quarterback, it would be Bo Nix. If I were to go with a wide receiver, it would be Hunter or Harrison. If I were to go with a running back, it would be probably Hampton. I think I probably got to go wide receiver here, most likely.
There's a clear answer.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're Hunter Gluck City with him, so I'm gonna grab Marvin because I do value Marvin slightly ahead of Hunter still. Just simply, tie breaking by the fact that Hunter, snap share wise, Brian Thomas early in his career, I still have my faith on Marvin Harrison Jr. has pretty much unwavered to the point that I'm not gonna really change what I think about him. I do think he had a tough role last year, having to be like the clear alpha, get all the attention, double coverages, and all that kind of stuff. I think we'll see a pretty big jump out of Marvin Harrison this year. So it's more pro Harrison than anti Hunter.
Yeah. Oh, I don't disagree. I also think Marvin Harrison can have that sizable bump. I do think he's a better player than maybe even what he showed last year. For me, though, if I can just re-roll on the second overall generational prospect, like he doesn't have the stink that Marv has on his rookie year from a market value perspective. Like if Marv had a disappointed second year versus Hunter having a disappointing first year, people would drop Marvin a lot more than they would Hunter.
Definitely would. I would say stink aside. Let's pretend they don't have stink. Like if we just expected Marvin to do this or something like that. Stink aside, I think the projection of the clear number 1 receiver for Kyler Murray versus a guy who, maybe year 1 is more of a 70 to 80% route participation guy with Brian Thomas Jr. to compete with. Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray, I would say roughly about the same caliber quarterback. Maybe Lawrence a little bit better of a passer than Kyler Murray, but I don't think it's a distinct difference between the two guys. I think they're about the same caliber of quarterback, give or take. So for me, it's more, do you want the number 1 or do you want the number 2? I guess McBride obviously going to soak up a lot of targets too, but I think Harrison ultimately will will be the number one receiver there. And I'll just, before you make your pick on the clock, my take on George Pickens is pretty simple. He went from, last year he was about a 12-point per game scorer. His situation objectively got worse this year because Russell Wilson was an upgrade to his current quarterbacks at the moment because Aaron Rodgers is not on the team yet, and we don't know for sure that's going to be the case. He goes from a situation where he was going to be the number 2 receiver behind DK Metcalf in a similar kind of, area of the field that DK Metcalf operates in, to now he's going to operate as a good complement to what CeeDee Lamb brings to the table. So he went from a guy who was probably projecting for like 11, 12 points per game in Pittsburgh to a guy who's probably going to be more of a 14, 15 point per game scorer. The only thing I would push back on is calling him T. Higgins, because T. Higgins required 700 pass attempts. Joe Burrow, who's a better quarterback, and T. Higgins was a top 5 receiver in points per game last year, which I just don't think George Pickens is good enough to do that.
Yeah, and I'll disagree there. I do think that this is going to be a very concentrated target situation, similar to Cincinnati. If Dak's healthy, he's going to throw for 4,500, and I said 30 plus touchdowns. If he's healthy, he can come back to 35 plus like he did 2 years ago.
He can, but with Burrow, it's an absolute lock. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, like it's more so an injury perspective as to why Dak wouldn't get there. And if you want to build that into your case for why it's a lower floor situation, I think that's reasonable. But if we're talking ceiling for ceiling, I do feel like there is a similar ceiling for both those players because he hasn't actualized his ceiling and Higgins has. That's the discrepancy in their current market value. But you also have to factor in that Pickens is 2 years younger as well. And with that being said,
I'll give you age for sure. But saying like, I don't know, dude, Higgins also had a 15.7 points per game season already too. So it's not like he just did this on a whim on a random season where Burrow spiked in passing volume and that kind of thing. But anyways, I think both of us made our cases on George Pickens. You and I have been going back and forth on what it means for him for a lot. My projection would be kind of like 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, which would be roughly like, wide receiver 24 to 29 in points per game, probably most likely, depending on how many games he plays and that kind of thing.
I would say if he's healthy, that's probably the median projection, but I think
that's closer to like to an 80th, 90th percentile. I think on the super
he had
high
1140 as a second-year player. He had 1140 as a second-year player. I don't think we can deduce that as being his ceiling, considering he literally outproduced that in his career as a second-year player. I don't disagree in principle, though. I think we just disagree on how high the ceiling is comparatively, which is fine. Also, I have to point
deduction too is also part of it for me.
That goes with floor. I agree with you. Like the volatile floor is why he's in the 20s rather than being a top 20 guy. Because if you're just talking like if he had no concerns, he was sneaky clean off the field, like a T. Higgins comparatively, we wouldn't be having the discussions we are right now. But I'm not out on MHJ. I'm in on Travis Hunter. Let's get that straight. I am not out on MHJ.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison just represents the cutoff point in which I would favor the sure thing that he actually plays wide receiver full time versus, there is a little bit of a tiny risk with Travis Hunter. Again, I'm not factoring it in very much because you and I both just believe in Hunter the player, but at a certain point it factors in. And to me, Marvin Harrison is that certain point.
Yeah. By the way, I guess I got to go through a couple of my picks. You obviously talked about your Josh Allen. Yeah, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, 101, 102. I think that's reasonable. Marvin Harrison Jr. and JSN. You made the case for Marv. Again, I would have taken Hunter, but he's still an elite prospect going into his second year, and people kind of overplay how much he struggled per se. I'll let you make the pick, and then I'll talk about my picks.
Yeah, I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here because I did just see a tier break at wide receiver go off the board with AJ Brown, who would have been my selection had he fallen back to me, and I was kind of hoping he did. That's why I took JSN first. Tight end wise, I think it's a smidge early for Sam Laporta. Running back, I could go in the direction of like a Trevion Henderson or a Bucky Irving or something like that. Think I might gear towards back at the quarterback position and secure one of these guys because I actually do have Lawrence, Purdy, and Mayfield in a tier ahead of where Ward, Penix, Goff, and McCarthy and Prescott are for me. So I'm going to take my highest available quarterback, which would be Baker Mayfield. But I could have gone with Lawrence there. I could have gone with Purdy there. They're kind of all in the same tier for me. But given what's kind of transpiring in the room here, I feel like I might get some good value on competitive assets, which is why I went with Mayfield there.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I'm kind of flexible with how I've structured this theme. Obviously, I would probably want more raw point equity this year at quarterback because as much as I love Caleb, like he's probably only going to be a fringe quarterback one in terms of ADP on Underdog if we're trying to equate it versus, guys like the Hurts, the Daniels, et cetera, are going to be in the high range. So we'd probably need another high-end quarterback piece from a production standpoint if this was a real startup. But CeeDee Lamb, Ted McMillan, I trust in. Also, damn it, Trevor Lawrence goes right off the board. That was the guy that I was eyeing to potentially take here. So I'm probably going to actually have to punt quarterback another pick because I do think that was, like you said, the mini tier. Plus, I love the next range of Prescott,
I'd view
McCarthy,
Purdy in
etc.
that tier personally, but
I wouldn't. I have Dak over him.
Yeah. I think they fit different team types because Purdy is still 25 years old and Dak is 31. But I still think Purdy is going to get extended. 49ers are going to be still a very competitive, talented offense. I feel like, I know Dylan, if he's in the chat, will love this, but I feel like Purdy is being somewhat slept on in terms of like what he's been when he's been on the field, which is like mid to low end QB1.
Yep. Also, between him and this other guy, I just think this is the last opportunity in this mock to get a young franchise running back. So I will grab Trevion Henderson here. I still think, like I said, this is a young team, but a team that I feel confident with competing with. And Henderson, to me, like him and Judkins, like after that, you're really getting into, Jonathan Taylor's got 1 year left, and Kyron Williams, they added help, and Josh Jacobs, he's getting older, and they added receiving help. Like there's just so many more question marks outside of Judkins, Henderson, and honestly, a guy that I raised over that tier in my own right with Chase Brown.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're kind of playing the ADP game a little bit on Chase Brown, that you maybe could get him in the 5th round, falling back to you. Any picks? Let's go over the rookies here, just because since the draft, that would be the thing that changed here. I just want to see where the rookies fell into line in terms of the ADP. We see Genty went off the board at 206. I would have personally taken him over the 3 receivers that went ahead of him. I just have that much faith in Genty, the player.
Him versus Puka is a combo.
Yeah, it's definitely a combo, but to me, I love Genty. I think he could go in that range, no problem for me. Hampton at the 212, I think is fine. Although I think I probably would prefer him in the early to mid 3rd.
I'd prefer Hunter. Oh, damn it, man!
There goes Doc.
All the quarterbacks are just ripping, eh?
Yeah, okay. And then where did Hunter go off the board here? Oh, he ended up going at the 301, right? Sorry, it's 3rd round reversal because I got screwed up here. But yeah, I think relatively speaking, in terms of late 2nd value for Hampton or early 3rd value, Hunter, same thing, late 2nd, early 3rd value, and then about mid 3rd value for Ted McMillan. I think they all kind of went how I would expect them to go. And then you obviously take the 105, Trevion Henderson off the board, even though you have Cam Ward ranked high. So maybe you should change your rankings.
Not even that. They're the same tier for me. And I was playing the ADP game because there was like 6 quarterbacks I liked.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I think in a vacuum that most people should take Henderson over Cam Ward, just given the risk with Ward's profile. That's what I've pointed to. Something.
It really wasn't that. It's the fact, like I said, they're in the same tier, and I'm looking at all these quarterbacks that are still on the board. Like, even I'm lower on Penix, but Penix in this range I think is fine. Goff, McCarthy, Bryce. Like, I think they're reasonable 5th round picks. So, it just sucks that I missed out on Dak. That's really what it comes down to, because that's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like I said, I took Mayfield because I figured that I was going to be stuck with a Penix, Goff, McCarthy situation on my 511. And to me, I view Mayfield not all that differently. Like, I actually have him ranked over Justin Herbert in my dynasty rankings. So Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, when those guys start going off the board, that's when I start to get my Mayfield meter going, because I just think production-wise, he's going to outproduce those guys based on the talented cast of players that he has. He's had 44 total touchdowns and 4,500 yards last year. So I feel pretty good about Mayfield. And I think Lawrence and Purdy, same thing. They're also in that tier for me.
I have Judkins ranked over Jacobs.
Yeah, I also have Judkins ranked over Jacobs. To me, they're very similar players. Only one is 27 and one is 22.
I haven't done redraft rankings yet, but we'll probably do them like early look at them some point in the summer.
Honestly, I want to do mine because I was watching the Underdog guys just put out their first batch of redraft rankings, and I think I just want to do them for the site. First, like we'll probably put out a video.
We could do a video too.
Yeah, but I'm saying I want to get them up now just because best ball drafts are live. Yeah,
like exactly.
You can draft best ball mania teams, so I want to like sit down, do my best ball rankings, and then let's say 2 weeks from now or so, when dynasty stuff starts to fade a little bit, we can maybe introduce some redraft content in terms of rankings and whatnot. So I feel pretty good about Trevion Henderson being more of a dynasty darling than a redraft darling. Like, I tend to think he'll probably be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick in redraft. And I think that's about the range he should go. I can't really elevate him beyond that point because I really do expect early in his career, Ramondre Stevenson to be a little bit of a pest as far as his workload is concerned. But
yep. So I have two directions I can go here. The issue is all the quarterbacks that I like that are left are kind of like younger quarterbacks. So it almost
you have a
actually
young team, so
that's what I mean. It almost gears me towards because I was between Igbokwe versus Chase Brown. Because I have a younger team, it actually gears me towards Igbokwe because of that. So I'll take Igbokwe here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
The issue now with Buffalo is New York is not a legal state.
Yeah, it's you can no longer draft in New York, unfortunately. So our Buffalo Classic trips of us going there are no more, at least until New York gets Underdog back, which it sounds like it won't be super long, but it could be not this year potentially.
Also, I would have taken Hunter earlier as well. And from a redraft perspective, yeah, I'll have Jacobs over Judkins, but I don't think this is fair to just say, oh yeah, I have him over Judkins in Dynasty because the Packers offense is better. The reason why we're taking him over Jacobs in Dynasty is because there's a very clear difference in type of asset each of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really comes down to the age discrepancy between the two guys in Dynasty and touch workload and whatnot. Like, absolutely, there's no way Judkins is going to be ahead in my redraft rankings than Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs might be one of the best values on the board in redraft right now. He's like an early 3rd round pick. He should, on like full transparency, I can't name 6 or 7 wide receivers I'd rather have than Josh Jacobs. Like, I tend to think my running back rankings in terms of like best ball and stuff are going to be kind of like high testosterone rankings this year because
they always are. Though. You loved running backs last year too. Overvalued,
man.
Well, I mean, you did that last year too, and it paid off. Like yeah. At the end of the day, like we're not just going to take inferior wide receiver talent over running backs, which almost lends me to the fact that just grabbing my wide receivers early, because it almost feels like once you reach round 3, specifically rounds 3 to 8. Every single pick you want to make is a running back because the running backs feel so much better than the receivers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I tend to think that in round 1, I'll lean wide receiver because I think the comparable projections, but like, dude, we saw this last year. Like, go back and if you need to induce vomiting, go back to last year's ADP and look at the 2nd round wide receivers because they were ass compared to the running backs in that range. They were ass. So
3rd round?
2nd round, like the Olaves and Waddles of the world.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like you had to hit right. Like realistically, I never really liked those guys that much. It was like, please let me have Nico Collins falling. It was my prayer anytime I was in the mid-2nd or later was how I approached it.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm going to really try and be position agnostic in redraft specifically this year.
First couple rounds, I can't. Because if you start off with 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, then every single pick, you're going to want to take another one, and you have to limit yourself. You have to. You can't have 4 running backs.
On Underdog specifically, you do have to.
You can't have 4 running backs in the first 8 rounds. You can't.
I don't know, dude. Some of my best teams were hyper fragile 4 RB teams.
There's just going to be too many spots.
I made it up with 10 receivers on my roster. I'll do it again.
What was your definition of hyper fragile? Was it 3 early running backs? Was it 4 in the first 5 or 6 rounds?
No, I would have 4 by round 8 or 9, but 3 of them would come in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people start running back, and then it gets to the point where it's like, well, at one point you got to take a receiver, but then it's evaluating, would I rather take Quentin Johnson or would I rather take insert upside young running back in the 11th round?
Yeah,
like that's the decision point now.
I'm going to still, my thought process is it's way more
important. You're not listening at all, by the way, lip rips. I'm saying on best ball underdog drafts specifically.
You want to turn your game down just a little bit, by the way?
Best ball underdog drafts specifically, you're not going to be able to get good receivers. That's my point. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't take running backs. I'm saying you have to be cautious because every pick from the round 3 to 8 range, you're going to prefer the running back projection over the receiver projection.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Here's my point. On Underdog in redraft leagues, I'm going to take the best player and figure it out later.
Yep.
I get structurally you want to set
in a redraft league that makes sense. I just think in the best.
I don't care. I'll make it up in numbers. I don't care.
You're not going to make it up in numbers on Underdog because you're going to be left with the urine.
You're going to be left
with Marvin Mims as your wide receiver 3.
I'm going to tie the wide receiver if it's close. I am going to take the best player on the board. I don't care what
to a
position it
degree,
is.
but
I will figure it out later. It's
structure
more
matters
important to
more
hit
than
on
you're
your
making
early
it
round
seem.
picks than it is on your late round picks anyways.
Structure matters more than you're making it seem. I think if you put yourself in a terrible hole, your team cannot be resurrected.
I made it up in numbers on some of my best teams last year, and I will make it up in numbers again.
I just show me what numbers you made up.
You pretend that I'm gonna
Marvin Mims wide receiver 3 is what you're gonna be left with if you try to take.
I would never let it get to that point.
But you know what I'm saying? We're saying this to an audience of people. We're saying if you're in the rounds 3 to 8 range, your impulse is going to say you want the running back better than the receiver. If you're in an underdog room, I'm telling you, I mean, let's go through the ADPs on underdog right now.
Yeah, again, I do want to reiterate that we are specifically talking about underdog fantasy drafts. We are not talking about, like, in redraft fantasy leagues, I will absolutely draft the best player on the board.
Yeah.
And I'll flex a running back every single week if I have to, because I had to draft the best player on the board.
There's a difference. I'm talking about specifically on underdog.
God, I love when they act like an old married couple. And yes, we are going to stay focused on the draft. Let's stay focused on the draft. You could pull up the underdog ADP. Maybe we can go over it after. There goes George Pickens off the board, who we were talking about already, which I actually think is pretty good value at the 6'9", to be honest.
Great pick. I wanted McCarthy there. He goes off the board the pick before. You take the guy that, or I take the guy that you would have taken over him anyway. So,
yeah, I would have. I would have taken Bryce Young over JJ McCarthy. No questions asked.
I'd take McCarthy, but I think that's a fair combo.
Yeah. I love what Carolina has done. Everybody's glazing the Patriots and the Bears as like the winners of the offseason, but not enough people are talking about what Carolina has done.
Yeah, no, it's for sure.
Dude, I might get like a high T running back volume is king type. Like I might really play this bit out this year, to be honest. Like I might really be a full running back pill guy.
Just to like instigate a little bit, Bush, you're on the clock. How many times out of 100 are you taking Garrett Wilson over Josh Jacobs in a best ball draft?
0.
And that is the start of the round 3 range. Okay, let's go to the start of the round 4 range. Would you? How many times are you taking Xavier Worthy over Breece Hall in a best ball draft?
0.
So that's the start of the round 4 range. The start of the round 5 range. How many times are you taking Cortland Sutton over Joe Mixon in a best ball draft?
I'm a little bit lower on Mixon, but probably close to 0 still.
Okay. Calvin Ridley versus Chuba Hubbard?
Absolutely not a chance. I would take Calvin Ridley over Chuba Hubbard.
Kenneth Walker or Jordan Addison? That's a combo, actually.
That's a conversation, especially in best ball. Addison's kind of like a spike week guy, and I still really like. You picked a player that I don't like at running back versus.
We'll take Henderson, who's a pick ahead of Walker. Then
Henderson goes ahead of Walker.
Yeah, which he should.
Oh no chance. I would take Henderson over.
Okay, fair.
I think Henderson should be lower in ADP.
Damn,
for redraft specifically.
I mean,
this might be an RB bro this year, dude. Here's
a fun David Montgomery or Jacoby Myers.
I'd probably take Myers there, give or take. I'd say about half the time, depending on my team. That kind of thing.
But you see how like the majority of these decision points, like it's like a comfortable. I want the running back. And that, I think, is the issue specifically with the first 2 rounds on underdog. If you don't get a receiver in the first 2 rounds on underdog, sometimes you have to forfeit value because you're so behind at receiver. Yeah. In redraft leagues, I agree with you. It's like, dude, you can easily make it up for you. You have a bunch of buffoon league mates that'll let really good values fall. Like, I'm not worried there. But on underdog, it's like, if you don't take a receiver early, you get left. You're behind the club and you're taking a beating from the bouncers.
So can I propose this question just philosophically? Yeah. I get the format of underdog fantasy is 3 wide receivers start, but it is also half PPR.
Yep.
Is it the worst thing in the world if you have the weakest part of your team being wide receiver?
It's not.
If you had to take the best players on the board and they were not wide receivers.
So it's not the worst case scenario, but you're relying upon the other 11 people in that room not force feeding receivers higher.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, everybody views receivers where they should be in a half PPR setting, and we could get better values. But everybody else in those rooms are just going to take 6 receivers in the first 8 rounds because that's what they know to do.
Right. But if I could blow your mind just for a quick second, wasn't the entire revolution of 0 RB based on the fact that everyone in your league was going to take running backs higher? So if everybody in your league is taking wide receivers higher, doesn't that mean that you should take running backs?
To a degree, but best ball is different because as we've talked about, running back is more of an opportunity-based position versus receivers more of a talent-based. And quite frankly, you're just banking on like QJ archetypes carrying your spike weeks all year. Which again, like if you have enough numbers and you get lucky, maybe it works. But like it's a lot less predictive.
So inherently, yes, I agree with you. Finding a 12th round running back producer is easier than finding a 12th round wide receiver producer. But I think the tier gap in round 3 being an RB1 projection versus a mid wide receiver 3, like you're drafting, is a bigger difference to me. And I will figure it out later in the draft.
Well, that's why I said in the first 2 rounds, like that's when I'm looking at wide receivers, because I agree with you. Rounds 3 to 8, I don't want to take middling wide receiver projections over the running backs in that range. Quite frankly, like you need the top receivers to win in money weeks too. I think that's a good point made by Keith.
That's a good point, but you also can win in money weeks based on quarterback and tight end production as well. Yeah, like, it's not just wide receivers that you need in like
Corey. Are you taking Zach Charbonnet or are you taking Rashid Shaheed?
I would have to hear the whole offseason jargon surrounding the Seahawks backfield before I can answer that question definitively. I would say I would mix in shares of both players at the current moment.
Taking Isaac Guerrero or Jalen McMillan?
I would take McMillan all day.
Really?
Yeah. McMillan, even if he plays a low amount of snaps, I would take him. I'm going to just take Ayuk here because I feel like he's the best player on the board.
Yeah, I guess I just disagree with you. Some of the guys in this range too. Like I love the running backs here.
Here's how it will structurally end up playing out for me a lot of the time. In the first round, I'm probably going to take a lot of receivers because I need to tie break somewhere. And in the first round feels like the good spot to do it. In the second round and third round, I'm going to be hammering running backs, most likely. Just based on the projections at wide receiver versus the projections at running back. You're getting locked and loaded RB1 projections versus probably wide receiver 2s and 3s in that range. And then in the 4th, 5th round, I'll probably weave in some shares of wide receivers just to make sure I'm not totally falling behind. But I'm not going to take like Christian Kirk or whoever. Give me a 6th round receiver on Underdog right now.
Round 6 receiver. Okay, let me take a look. Wide receivers. So you're looking at what in the 70s of ADP?
Yeah.
Like George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, Matthew Golden, Stephon Diggs, Ricky Pearsall, which is like
that is disgusting.
Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir. That's kind of like your 7th round.
Okay. There's absolutely zero chance I would take, let's say, I'm not going to use Ricky Pearsall because he's low hanging fruit. Jacoby Myers, who's a good player and had a good season last year, who's a running back in the same range.
Jacoby Myers or a running back in that same range?
Yeah, like is Kenneth Walker in that same range?
Well, that was the range I talked to you earlier. Those were like, wait, okay. Sorry, let me take another look. I scrolled by it by accident. So Jacoby Myers, 72.8 ADP, running backs in that range with around a 70 ADP. David Montgomery, Caleb Johnson, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, I would probably take most of those guys over Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and like like I said, in practice, it's probably going to equal that I hammer a lot of running backs rounds 2 through 4, give or take. And wide receiver, I have to catch up on a little bit. But I'm going to do my best to still take the best player on the board. And I think that's ultimately you draft the player who's going to score the most fantasy points. It does like structure obviously matters. And it's easy for you and I to say this because we've drafted hundreds of underdog teams. So you know how to land the plane when you've gone running back early, or you know how to land the plane if you've taken a falling quarterback or something like that. But for me, ultimately, the only way to win this tournament is to score the most points on any given week. So
also,
I'm going to take the best player.
Also, I'm on the clock. I did not see because I was making a pick in the Devy League. Okay.
Shout out to us for staying on topic in this draft.
I don't have a tight end. Okay, any tight ends fall?
Not really, unless you. Can I interest you in some Kyle Pitts?
Not here.
No. Can I interest you in some David Njoku, Tucker Kraft? I guess would be my highest rated tight ends on the board.
God, let me get a running back then. I guess. What, dude? There's like, I'm gonna get tired.
You can talk me into like another receiver, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll just take Higgins. I'll just take Higgins. I have a panic. Yeah, I mean, like this is about the range I have. I'm like mid-30s a receiver, so I don't think I reach. Plus, like I have a young team. I just wasn't able to really look at it because I picked one Jarquez Hunter in our Debbie Disciples League, my boy.
Yeah. Okay, so to recap what's going on in the draft right now, because we did get a little bit off topic there. I ended up going Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield as kind of like my duo of quarterbacks there. I ended up kind of smashing out wide receivers with Harrison, JSN, Chris Olave, and Brandon Ayuk throughout the first 8 rounds. And then I got Chase Brown at the 6-2. I have as a top 10 dynasty running back right now. He as good of a run out for a day 3 running back as you can possibly ask for. Just like it's even better if you think about Kyron Williams was the RB10 in fantasy last year, and Kyron Williams had a 2nd or a 3rd round running back added to his team. Chase Brown had nothing added in free agency. They brought back Zach Moss, who's kind of a bum. They have Khalil Herbert, I think, still on the roster. And they add Taj Brooks, who maybe should have gone in like the 4th, 5th round, but reasonably, like he isn't much as far as a team investment. So I think it's probably wheels up for Chase Brown again to see 70-ish% of the backfield. And keep in mind, that would be a 20% reduction in what he was seeing from last year towards the end of the season when he was like a 90% workhorse.
Wait, sorry. Repeat that. I was reading the comments. Sorry, I zoned out.
There we go. I said Chase Brown was a 90% workhorse down the stretch last year. And even if he sees 70% of the backfield, he's on pace to be a top 10 point producer this year.
Yeah. And then realistically, people are going to say, well, like Chase Brown had an unsustainable workload last year. It's like, well, what this offseason has pointed you to the fact that he can't just go out and do that again. Like I like Taj Brooks, but realistically, pegging Taj Brooks for even remotely close to what Zach Moss's role was, even when Chase Brown took over, is very optimistic. Zach Moss, for all we know, did he break his neck last year? Like, what the fuck happened? I know.
Also, if that happens, Taj Brooks might be the biggest value in all of fantasy football. If that's true, so if you believe that, then you better be drafting bags upon bags of Taj Brooks.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong. It was a broken neck, right? Like he literally contemplated retiring, and he decided to stick it around. Like, if your expectations on Chase Brown, if your expectations on Chase Brown are like, oh, maybe Zach Moss gets sticky and involved like he was at the beginning of the year, dude, that was a neck ago.
Yeah, it was a full neck ago.
Full neck ago.
Also, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games of Chase Brown being a lead dog. Care to estimate how many targets per game he saw in addition to the ground workload that he got?
Dude, he was getting fed. I had him in the flock league, probably like 5.2.
Yeah, 4.9. So he was getting 5 targets a game in addition to starting in week 9, 27 carries, 13 carries, 22 carries, 12 carries, 14 carries, 25 carries, 18 carries, 20 carries.
Hey.
So the guy was an absolute horse.
Hey, Bush.
And he also did this in college too. So it's not like he can't handle a workload.
Hey, Bush, 4.9 versus 5.2, pretty close. Just like Anton Harrison and Darius Robinson are also pretty close.
The only reason I said that those guys were close, Danny's referring to the trivia tournament, by the way, is because there's a sun at the end of the name.
Oh,
that's the only thing I meant by that comment.
When I saw that, I'm just like, I know Corey was thinking same shit.
Also, I believe Anton Harrison and Darius Robinson or whatever were the same pick in the draft as well, like late 20s pick in the draft.
It was just funny.
It was funny. Yes, it was funny.
Oh man.
Anyways, but
wow.
The board itself, I think, is playing out pretty interestingly. I don't see anything that's standing out to me among rookies that I think is outrageous. I think, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, about 7th-ish round startup picks after James Cook goes off the board. Makes sense there. You end up going Jaden Higgins in the last round. I think he's also the end of that tier. Jackson Dart went off the board already too. Both the tight ends are gone. So I think we're seeing how this fits in to the landscape of the veterans as far as like where the rookie draft is playing itself out within the startup draft here.
I also realized I have 4 rookie receivers.
You're also so happy right now and frozen again. At least that's what it looks like on my screen. So the the PC that Danny has is having some shitting its pants issues.
Try to talk.
You're good. You can't hear me now.
Why can't I hear you?
All right. While you crash out, I'm just gonna mute you until you can hear me again. Here we go. We got tight. Like I could use a tight end here. I think Tucker Kraft is probably gonna be my selection, or David Njoku. Dude, I'm getting big on craft, man. I'm getting bigger on craft. I don't know about you.
Mac and cheese?
Yeah. Mac and cheese is certifiable trash, and I won't hear otherwise, but
No, don't kill me.
so food take, quick diversion for a food take. Macaroni and cheese in general, is a pretty overrated food.
Yeah. It depends if you're in the mood for it.
A good barbecue place has a good mac and cheese, fine. Am I ever like, I would die without mac and cheese in my life? No. It's good.
Yeah. No, craft specifically is dreadful. We don't disagree. But yeah, it's a comfort food. It's like
eat concrete.
Dude, mac and cheese is the type of food where it's like, hey, guess what? I just smoked a blunt and I'm trying to vibe out and just relax and eat something that I don't have to feel guilty about. That's
There's better comfort food would be my only counter to that. There's much.
You're not wrong. Food. Like a greasy slice when it's a late night and you're coming back from the bars also hits.
Yeah. Okay.
There's also
running back position. Ugh,
there was I'm
gonna grab craft here.
I don't know if it's called like a gourmet burger spot, but like a specialty burger spot, basically, like right near the clubs downtown Hamilton. So every time at like 2-3 a.m. because they'd obviously still be open. Obviously, like if they're gonna locate their fucking place down there, they're gonna make sure they're open for probably the biggest wave that they're gonna have of the night, which would be at 3 a.m. after people are coming home from the bar. And dude, like people would just show up, they'd be completely buzzed out of their mind. You just get the most exact, like specific burger that you would be looking for, and that shit for what, like when you can think of the ingredients as you're ordering it, and then at the moment you fucking put it in your mouth, and like when you're gone. I don't know how to describe it. I think I described it well, but I might have just been mumbling some words.
You could no, it can go hard for sure. Oh, yeah. Homemade mac and cheese, it can go hard. There's a gourmet mac and cheese place that I like that does pretty good stuff. And like Jared brings up, oh, if you had a good buffalo mac and all this kind of stuff, I make a great buffalo mac and cheese. And for those of you guys that want a very easy recipe that's easy to access, the back of a Frank's Red Hots bottle has an excellent mac and cheese recipe on it for what it's worth. Yeah. But it's not my go-to comfort food. I would choose at least 3 to 4 things before I pick mac and cheese.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like I don't even know what my
pizza, wings.
Yeah. Oh, wings.
Any kind of like pulled pork or like any kind of like buffalo
brisket
chicken sandwich or something like that. I'm taking that stuff all day. Smash burgers, poutine. You guys are not Canadian, so you won't get poutine. But
dude, a good poutine when you're sloshed hits hard. Like I'm telling you right now, like I've told you the story about in Guelph where I've woken up 5 a.m. face down with a half-eaten poutine next to me. Went straight down to the basement because we were in our res. Or bought 5 Gatorades and downed them all by 6:30 a.m. Like within an hour, I just chugged 5 Gatorades because the night before I couldn't remember a fucking thing.
The only thing that would make that story more Canadian is that you shotgunned a Molson the next morning.
That night though, this girl basically told me, she's like, if you can drink X amount of Jaeger bombs, I'll pay for them all. And I'm like, that's free money. Like I'm 21 years old. I'm fucking down to these shits. The fuck, it's free booze. I'm getting lit, dude. They were watered down. Don't get me wrong. Because like there was like $2 Jaeger bombs, so like obviously they're not.
They're not throwing pure Jaeger in those,
bro. I fucking downed like 20 Jaeger bombs that night. She fucking paid for them all. Apparently, my boy said like when I left, I went to the poutine place, said just get me a large of whatever you think I would enjoy. The guy who was laughing his ass off at me. He's like, okay, this guy's drunk out of his mind, just saying put whatever on this poutine you'll enjoy. Starts like shoveling buffalo chicken, cheese, like hot sauce, everything, all the fucking 9 yards, right? And I will say, the other half of the poutine hit pretty hard at 6 a.m.
Yeah, nice getting fired. I'm not undoing that pick. Oh. You deserve Dalton Kincaid.
I was saying a whole story. I wasn't seeing that. Okay.
No, you deserve Dalton Kincaid for going on and not paying attention to the clock.
Dude, I was going on about a story. Fair. Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. Also, quick Canadian flex on some Americans here. By the way, when you were 21, you were already legally allowed to go to bars for 2 full years before that. Yeah. But that's why Canada's goated.
Your bums got their revenge.
Anyways, let's land the plane again. not to go too far on a tangent, I do love this take by Young Money D. He says, Byshell Tootin reminds me so much of Chase Brown, league winner incoming. I believe that was my comp for Byshell Tootin was Chase Brown coming out of Virginia Tech. And we saw a report yesterday a couple of reports actually saying that Travis Etienne's on the trade block. The new coaching staff, the new regime is not maybe super high on Travis Etienne. I think we're going to see the hammer drop on Etienne at some point during the offseason, before the season starts. I think he's gone. I think he's going to get traded legitimately.
Is he a Cowboy?
I would, if I were you guys, like Travis Etienne is a much better gap scheme runner than he is a zone scheme runner. If he ran in a gap scheme,
we're running straight gap.
Exactly. That's exactly what the type of running back you want. I actually think Etienne would be a perfect fit for the Cowboys.
At this point, it might cost like a 6 or 7 swap. The Jags think they're getting a fucking haul for him.
No, they're going to get nothing for him and like it.
Yeah, dude.
He's going to fetch maybe a 5th or a 6th, maybe.
Dude, I think a 5th would be highway robbery. I think we're looking at like a 6 for.
You guys gave a 4th for Trey Lance and Jonathan Mingo, so let's not put it past you guys to give them a 4th.
The difference is Etienne's needing a contract, and those guys were on rookie deals.
Okay, well, Jonathan Mingo can't catch a football, so I
don't disagree on the evaluation.
Contract seems like less of an overpay than can't catch a football.
They looked at Mingo and said, "Hey, listen, you're making cheap money for the next few years. That's why we're giving a 4th for you." It had nothing to do with his football ability.
Yeah, and Cody, we will not disagree with you on the people in charge of Canada. Here's why Canada can be better than the United States. I'm not going to say better.
Don't get me started with Carney.
Here's why Canada can be better than the United States. Canada has free healthcare, goated. Canada has way better scenery. Like our country is just objectively more beautiful than your country. Like I go to the United States and I'm like, it's kind of a shithole here.
Kind of ass.
It's kind of ass, realistically. Our country is gorgeous compared to your country.
Like I can't lie. I feel like I get sick more when I'm out there than when I'm in here. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, the air just feels different.
Exactly. We can drink at 21 or at 19. Sorry. You guys have to wait. The water in Canada tastes better. Don't know why. Your water's weird. And we've never traveled to like Flint, Michigan or some shit. Like, we're traveling to regular, well-developed cities in the United States. Your water tastes weird. I don't know what it is. Dude, maybe there's fluoride in it. I have no idea.
And again, maybe it's just because my liver is cooked, but I don't usually like have really, really bad sickness sometimes when I eat in Canada. So there'll be sometimes I'll eat like a little bit too much in the States and I'll be like, oh my God, like I feel like death. I feel like death. Again, it's great. It's really good fucking food. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah,
but
we can list the reasons the United States is better. Like there's
100%.
There's many reasons. Like for starters, the form of government that we have in Canada is a problem right now. And I'm not saying your government's perfect either, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that would have arguments against that. It's just that ours is so unbelievably gatekeepy that it's hard to get into change in our country. So anyways, we're going to stay away from that topic, but depends where you are. Some good sites in the U.S.
It tastes good.
Worse here. I think your stomach is.
You're probably right. I have liver issues. I literally got a fibro scan like a month ago.
Yeah, no, I honestly just tend to think that the United States. No way, you're talking government.
Our government sucks.
Yeah, no, we're not going to get into that. Into that topic. There's probably issues with both of them, realistically. Also, I love Mexico, so I mean,
this is an interesting comp.
You essentially view the U.S. how we view Mexico. I mean, my main gripe with the United States is how their food is prepared, and Mexico's food is unbelievably good. So they're not a good comp for that.
I'm not even a big fan of this guy, but like Pittman in the 11th kind of feels really nice. It's better than Kincaid in the 10th, that's for sure.
Yeah. FSE could run for, you know what we should do? We should have Danny run for Prime Minister of Canada and I'll run for President of the United States. And then we'll just like combine forces.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
We'll cook.
We will cook. Is it bad I took Scadaboo over Tootin? The prospect model would tell you to. So, I mean, I don't think it's bad quality of prospect wise. I just tie break two of them from landing spot. Same draft capital, same exact situation, except there's no Tyrone Tracy in the Jaguars backfield. And I also just much rather have Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohn versus Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart.
Yeah. Sorry. I saw a couple comments that I thought were like interesting up here too. What do we
You need
see?
to be
Okay.
born in the U.S. to run. Facts can't do it.
Tootin Chase Brown, I think there's a good comp. It was actually Corey's exact comp for him. Yeah, we had a whole thing about Pickens because I also saw Bobcat said about Pickens, and I also saw Young Money talked about Pickens. I, for one, am a lot higher on the talent level of Pickens than that. I think he's a fringe top 20-ish level receiver. I don't think there's much separating him, specifically from a beating man coverage perspective, as even the better X's in the league that you'll think of. Number 2 X's with DK Metcalf, T. Higgins. I view Pickens in that ballpark.
This is as of 2 days ago when he became a Dallas
No,
Cowboy.
no.
Opinion.
No, I thought he was overcasted as a number 1, but he's your perfect tie-in number 2. Just like I think DK Metcalf is not a number 1 receiver. Just like I think T. Higgins is not a number 1 receiver. I think there's maybe only 12 to 14 guys, if that can suffice as true number 1s in the league. And I think that that list kind of ends at like the Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin range.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I'm going to just grab Aaron Jones here because I kind of built out like a competitive.
I absolutely do. The yards per route run, especially against man, are going to point to that as well.
Yeah,
Pickens more volatile. I'm not going to argue that.
I'm more in the line of Young Money D here. I think George Pickens is a very, very, very solid number 2. I think that T. Higgins and Devontae Smith, for example, would be number 1s on other teams. That's
I think Devontae is clearly a 1. Also, you got fired apparently.
I didn't get fired. No, I took Aaron Jones.
Oh, or not? I don't know. Okay, fair.
I was close to getting fired, but I did select Aaron Jones.
Okay. Yeah, like
what's the difference between Sutton and Pickens realistically?
Because
I think you could argue
Pickens
that Sutton's underrated and Pickens is overrated as a player, but I think the difference is that Pickens is probably still getting better and already on par talent-wise with Sutton.
Pickens did more in his age 22 season than Cortland Sutton has in his career.
I mean, I disagree because Sutton had a really, really good season in terms of fantasy production this year.
Yeah, I mean, like
that's
realistically,
2 points per game better than what Pickens has ever done.
Yeah, okay. So how many yards? 1,081 yards, and that's specifically on the fact that he had more touchdown equity with the Broncos. We haven't had
PPR points per game, 14.1, 2 points higher than Pickens.
I'm just talking about yardage. Like Pickens had more yards in his second year than Sutton has had in his career. And I don't think it's fair to compare touchdown equity when the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 3 years we talked about had 2 years with sub 15 passing touchdowns in the season.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think Pickens is probably a slightly better receiver than Sutton, but I actually don't think it. I think it's a conversation.
I think there's a big difference.
Sutton's not that far off at this current moment. Pickens could still get better because he's still young and that kind of thing, but at this current moment, I don't think it's that far off of a conversation.
Like I think Pickens is a better Gallup, and Gallup was a guy, like I said.
I mean, Gallup sucks, so I don't know why you keep making that comparison.
Gallup sucked, but in 2019 in 14 games, he had almost 1,200 receiving yards as a second-year receiver.
Yes, but also in 5-10 years from now, he's going to be a BDG trivia name that nobody remembers.
Yeah, because he shredded his knee and never recovered.
Yeah.
He had that big time 2019 year. 2020, despite being the wide receiver 3 on his team, had almost 900 receiving yards and then shredded his knee the following year.
I kind of like Darnell Mooney. Am I nuts?
You're not nuts. I think this is about the range you should go.
I kind of like him. I think he's like a decent player. I think there's a very good chance. Like, call me crazy. Call me crazy here. I think there's a, let's say 30% chance. I would give it a 70% chance for this other person, a 30% chance for Darnell Mooney, that he outscores George Pickens in fantasy. Darnell Mooney.
You want to take that bet?
I said there's a 30% chance he would do it.
I'll give you
a 70% chance. Like if we were doing a rivals head-to-head or something.
I'll give you a handicap. 1.5 points per game difference.
How much?
1.5 points per game.
I'll take 1.5 points per game difference on Darnell Mooney outscoring George Pickens.
Yeah, so Pickens has to outperform him by 1.6 or more, or is it if it's 1.5 or 1.4 or less? What are we doing for line? Like 1.5 is a push.
Yeah, 1.5 is a push. You're on the clock, by the way.
Okay, 1.5 is a push. 1.6 or more, I win. 1.4 or less, you win. Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah,
jot it down.
Just so you guys know, Darnell Mooney's best season, better than anything George Pickens has done. Darnell Mooney last season outscored George Pickens. So it's not.
I just don't think it's a congruent comparison when you're talking about the situation that Pickens has been in.
I guess, but you got a 21% target share out of Darnell Mooney, which I could argue could still climb. And he outscored George Pickens, who had a 30% target share, which I think just proves that he might be as good of a receiver.
Yeah, here I don't. Sure. Fucking, I didn't have time. Sorry, I was focusing on the question, and I just picked Kate on. I don't like it at all, but
It's more of a Mooney's really underrated and a good
Yeah.
value kind of take than anything.
Confirmed, John. I mean, I'm not shocked because his knee is that bad, but
There's no point of even risking it with him.
yeah, he's out for the entire year. Yeah, there's no point. Again, I've been making the case he's kind of worthless in Dynasty now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, back to the whole underdog best ball conversation. Chuba Hubbard anywhere outside of the top 2 rounds is a value, and he is a 4th round pick currently.
I don't think I'm there. I would probably need him more 3-4 because they did add Dowdle and ETN. Like there's still the possibility.
You could argue his workload could go down a little bit, but
the offense will get better too. So
I would then combat it with he literally was elite last year, a 16 point per game producer on a bottom 5 NFL offense.
Again, I'm probably going to be more aligned with you where I rank him. The issue I'm saying is specifically where he's going to go. Like he's going right now at 55 overall in ADP. How much more do you think the market's going to push him? I don't think it's not going to be much. I think everybody kind of anticipated Brooks.
I'm just going to frankly hammer the crap out of him where he's going. I'll probably rank him in the 3rd round somewhere, but I will hammer the crap out of him on underdog.
Yeah,
because he's like a 4th, 5th round pick.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Where is Mooney's ADP on underdog? I am curious.
Can I guess it before you tell me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if Myers you said was going in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
So using Myers as a barometer, I think that Mooney's probably going 95.
Close.
Where?
Do you want to go higher or lower?
Is it? I bet he's going lower than that. 116.
No. Higher.
He's going higher than that.
Yeah.
Okay. 86.
Lower.
80.
Oh, sorry.
Lower in 80.
Yeah.
92.
90.4.
Yeah.
right now.
So we're talking, what is that? A 7th round pick? Late 7th round pick?
About that.
Well, I can't do math. Hold on.
He's wide receiver 49 off the board. Sandwich around him. Luther Burden at 48 and Emeka Egbuka at 50.
Okay, so he's a late 7th round pick then. I just did the math.
Cooper Kupp's ahead of them both, by the way. Mr. Wash.
Yeah, I actually think that's somewhat of a stomachable price for Cooper Kupp, to be honest.
Not taking him in any draft.
I don't love him there, but I don't think it's an absolutely absurd price.
I don't think it's an absurd price, but how expensive would you pay for Adam Thielen right now?
How much would I pay for Adam Thielen? I mean, Adam Thielen.
What's the difference at this point between
Adam
Thielen and Kupp?
doesn't have a contractual thing saying he's the clear number 2 in his offense.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm just saying I think at this point it's a conversation of who's a better football player.
I think you could argue that Adam Thielen's better.
That's the point I'm making because Adam Thielen has been a per game guy in the last couple of years, and that's all we're claiming Cooper Kupp to be now.
I wouldn't be shocked, by the way, if one of the 3 young receivers for the Carolina Panthers is not on the field in 3 wide receiver sets because of Adam Thielen. I don't know which one it would be. It would probably be Coker, I would imagine.
Receiver. But like, let's get that straight. He's 100% going to be a starting receiver. Adam Thielen can still freaking play.
Yeah.
Here. With that being said, let me make a pick. We can go with. I'm honestly just going to sort by rookies because I don't want to search for anything here. Did Blue off the board? Did Blue go? Okay, I'll go get him then.
Yeah.
But it's funny with Thielen. So Thielen in his last. Okay, so obviously we know he's played 2 years in Carolina, right? The first year, obviously 2023, 1,000 yards in 17 games on 137 targets. We kind of remember that. He had that anomaly year is what people were calling it. But then last year, he went out in 10 games.
14 points per game.
6.2 targets per game, 48 for 615 and 5 touchdowns. He literally averaged 62 yards per game. If you take his per games across the last couple of years and compare it to Cooper Kupp, you're getting the same player.
Dog, he's 2 points per game better than George Pickens the last 2 years.
Yeah, fuck.
Insane that Adam Thielen's still doing it.
He might just be kicking.
He might just be a good player. And the fact that he's the wide receiver 3 or 4 for Bryce Young just tells me that Bryce Young is undervalued.
You want to throw up, by the way?
What?
So if I read you Cooper Kupp in 2024, in 12 games, he had 67 catches, 710 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. Adam Thielen in 2024, in 10 games, 48 catches, 615 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. They are the same fucking player at this point in their careers.
Yeah, they are. They are the same player. I'm gonna grab Leggett here. Speaking of the Carolina Panthers, take a swing on him.
I can't believe this is where we're at with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, that's where we are. A reminder, we're going to go over some teams. If you guys were in this draft, shout your team out. You want it broken down quickly, we'll do that. I would say for about the next 5 minutes or so. And then we will recap the draft and that kind of thing. And then we're going to go into Flock Fantasy site questions because we do have some trade questions from you guys. We do have some team reviews from you guys. If you want to submit a question to us, I will drop that one more time in the chat. Bobcat basically said here, how long does it take to get a verification code for Flock Fantasy? It should be sent to you within minutes. So if you're not getting it right away, maybe go to site issues in the Discord and see what's going on there. Make sure you have the right phone number or email, however you're doing it. But you should be getting it immediately here. So let's break down our teams quickly, Danny. Let's try and keep it to a minute per team, and then we'll rip some teams from people in the chat here. So I went from the 1-2 slot. Grab Josh Allen with my first pick. I pair up Baker Mayfield with him. I probably should have prioritized the third quarterback, but I didn't really love the value at any other pick that I was going for. I suppose maybe I could have gone Jackson Dart over Kenneth Walker, but I kind of liked the value of Walker there. Marvin Harrison, JSN, Olave, Brandon Ayuk, Mooney, and Leggett round out my wide receiver core. Again, pretty young still with those guys, but probably more of like a year 2, year 3 type of receiver core, given Ayuk coming off the injury and that kind of thing. And then Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Scatabo, and Aaron Jones. This would be kind of like a house money team, I would say, give or take, with Tucker Kraft as the main tight end there. Jones, to me, just represented good value. That was pretty much why I picked him there. And then I'll let you go over your team, and then we can tackle some of the other teams here.
Yeah, so my team here, of course, my beloved CeeDee Lamb. There,
I hate that sentence every time you say
it. My beloved CeeDee Lamb goes here at the 106. Very, very nice value here. I absolutely love the value here at Caleb Williams, 2.7. A guy that I'd be willing to take in the top 12. Get him here in the mid-second. Fully believe in this Ben Johnson offense, as you'll see later on when I do pair him with one of his teammates here. Ted McMillan at the 3.7. Would have liked the Lab McConkey. Do prefer Ted McMillan to JSN. I think this is a reasonable cost. If you want to take Justin Herbert there, I think that's reasonable. But realistically for me, I just saw a bunch of quarterbacks on the board I was comfortable with, so I wanted to push the envelope another pick. Same thing kind of happened at the Henderson 4-6 spot. Yeah, I missed out on Trevor Lawrence, who, if Trevor Lawrence was there, I would have been willing to take it to 4-6. But because he was off the board here, I go with Henderson. Was hoping one of, a Purdy, a Ward, Dak type was able to fall to me in the 5th. Ultimately, they go off the board, so I go with Emeka Egbuka and still get a guy at the later half of that tier with Bryce Young, in my opinion. Very ideal first 6 rounds for me. Pair Luther Burden, like I said, really like the value here, 7.7. He's my 112 in my rookie rankings right now. I feel like getting him at the 7.7 is very nice value. And of course, I get that tether of Caleb Williams with Luther Burden as a stack. Jaden Higgins at the 8.6. Mid-30ish level dynasty wide receiver, goes 35th off the board to the Houston Texans. There's conversations. Okay, well, he was never going to be the one there. And I think that's reasonable, obviously, because Nico Collins is a stud in his own right. But if CJ Stroud's the level
quarterback, T. Higgins, Danny?
He could be T. Higgins. Yeah. Baishal Tootin, 9.7, my 205 in rookie drafts. Feel that's about appropriate value for him. And then I'm not going to lie, the last few picks, I kind of was just talking. And
he was yapping a little bit.
I yapped and I missed Kincaid. And
to be honest, Kincaid at the 10.6 to me, I think is fine. I just wouldn't have taken him over Njoku. Would be the only gripe I would have had.
I said he was not overqualified. I said he was overcasted as a 1 in Pittsburgh is what I've said.
I think we're gonna need some receipts.
Yeah, otherwise, go ahead.
We're gonna just think it's Cowboys.
Vertical X wide receiver to complement CeeDee Lamb. I think Pickens has holes.
No, I think he means about Pickens' ability.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about his ability. I think he has holes.
In 20 seconds or less.
Okay.
Give the case for
20 seconds or less. I think Pickens' ability, when you're talking about from a whole perspective, beating zone, being a lead target player, he's not a number 1 wide receiver. But what he does very well is separate vertically and on the boundary. What does Dallas need in their offense? A vertical separator that can play that X wide receiver role. He's exactly what the Cowboys need.
Right, but that's I think what Cody's arguing is that you call him a top 20 receiver.
Sure. What do you think about DK Metcalf? Because I think Pickens is better than DK Metcalf.
I do not, and I don't think anybody on planet Earth has that opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. And actually, Matt Harmon is quoted at the beginning of last year. He had his best stint as a separator. I get it. The consistency down to down sometimes, game to game. He's not somebody that has been a reliable player, but the high-end flashes are absolutely there. And in fact, Matt Harmon has talked about it himself. I don't think it's crazy at all. I think DK Metcalf has the same problem where he flashes high end and he can also get knocked out in a game because, quite frankly, he decides to throw a punch at somebody.
And fucking Pickens doesn't do that?
I said they're both the same way in that regard.
Okay.
They both flash super, super high end, but they're not consistent enough to be number one receivers.
Dude, 1,310 touchdowns is Metcalf's peak, bro. I don't think we've seen anywhere near that from George Pickens.
We haven't seen him get even close to that in the last 5 years of his career, Metcalf. It happened in 2019, it happened in 2020. So 2021 to 2025, I believe, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I won't go this far. Like, I think Pickens is a good receiver. He fits the Cowboys very well, but I think he's going to be an 1,100-yard, 7-touchdown dude, which is great production, especially if you draft him, 5th round or something in a fantasy league. He can be a good option for you. The only thing me and Danny disagree
I'm not a Pickens stand for what it's worth.
You have been as of the last 2 days.
I'm making the case for Pickens. I'm not a Pickens stand. In fact, I think he has very clear weaknesses in his game that he needs to round out.
Calling him better than Metcalf makes you a Pickens stand is all.
Not even. I think Metcalf is one of the most overrated receivers in the league.
Okay. I would consider what Metcalf does is like a very
Pickens has a higher ceiling than Addison. Let's get that out of the way.
I think they're pretty comparable players, but in very different ways, like what they do. In terms
as
of
number 2 receivers, they're comparable, but they're different players for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go over. Jared mentioned he wanted his team kind of broken down here, and then we'll get off of this topic here. Let's move Jared or us here out of his way. Jared goes with Brock Bowers, Brian Thomas, Jordan Love, Cam Ward, Romo Dunze, George Pickens, who we talked about already, Caleb Johnson, Josh Downs, Justin Fields, and so on there. My only gripe, I would say, is that you started off with like a really nice shell of a contender with the first 3 picks. Yeah. I can't take Cam Ward over Bryce Young, over Dak Prescott. I can't do it. And I definitely wouldn't do it 2 rounds before Bryce Young. So for me, if I were in your position, I might have just gone straight contender with this team. And then once you took Cam Ward, I think you did a good job of staying true to the build that you had. Because once you made that decision, you're like, okay, now I'm kind of building a young team. You go Odunze, you go Caleb Johnson, you go Downs, you go with Sampson, you go with the young player. So I like that you stuck to what you kind of ultimately decided by round 4. I just think this was a room that you could have built a really nice contender with. And that would be the only thing I disagree with. But other than that, I think you did a really good job.
Speaking of Addison, a very interesting deal between Spicy Hot and Ginger Ale. And for what it's worth, I think it's a relatively fair deal across the board. Let me hear your thoughts here. So we have Spicy getting Addison plus a 2026 second from Clowning Dion's. Probably going to be like a mid-ish level projection second, if I were to guess, in exchange for Kamara, Hubbard, and Myers. So it's very clear Ginger Ale is trying to get some competing assets, and Spicy Hot cashes in on a young receiver and a pick.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty solid move for both sides there. Let's tackle a couple more of these teams really quick. So we had 9 spot. Fletsky wanted his team broken down. You got Drake May, Puka Nacua, CJ Stroud, Sam Laporta, Worthy, Golden, Harvey. Again, I think you did a great job sticking to your build. You went young. You start with that Drake May pick and you continue that build. There's not a whole lot of picks that I see here that I even disagree with, to be honest. Like I think I might have gone with the player that you went with in pretty much every single selection. Maybe you think that's tad early for Laporta, but I still like taking him at that point. Worthy and Golden, again, I think those guys were fine. Yeah, I can't really disagree with much here, Fletsky. I think he did a really good job on this team. Yep. And then I might not have taken Freiermuth, but that's about it. And then 111, I think it was Paul in the chat that said he wanted this broken down. 111, you go Neighbors, Bijan, Nix, Prescott. I love that start, by the way. If you're picking in a 3rd round reversal and you're able to start your draft like this, where you're able to get a stud wide receiver 1, a stud RB1, and still 2 really productive quarterbacks in Nix and Prescott here, you're able to fill out a really nice contender, which is, again, with all these teams, you stuck to what you kind of committed to, which is you took Prescott, you're kind of instantly becoming a contender at that point in time. And then you grab the value on Hubbard, you grab the value on
I would have maybe grabbed one more receiver
and those type of guys. Yeah. Receiver heavy might've been, I probably go also too. You kind of got sniped on Hawkinson because he would have fit your build a little bit better.
And if you had gotten
Godwin instead of Warren there and fade the tight end position into an Njoku or something.
To a degree, yes. I would also point to the fact that I'm assuming maybe he was eyeing a Godwin and probably got sniped at the 9-1. If you had gotten Godwin instead of Montgomery on this team, I would have felt even better because if you're talking about 3 wide receiver start level league,
I would have just taken Sutton over Montgomery, and I think you're fine there.
Yeah. I do think there's a point equity difference between Sutton and Godwin, though.
There is, yeah. But you could have also taken potentially, like where you took Connor, you could have taken Pittman or Debo.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable too. I mean, regardless, we're really picking micro holes. Pause. That's
Yeah.
That's
And then 108, we can go on to here in the chat. This will be the last one we do before we switch over to the other stuff.
Ryan also asked for his. So
we'll did he? Okay. All right. We'll go over his too.
He's one.
Justin Jefferson, St. Brown, Saquon, Kyron.
Waited too long at quarterback 2.
Yeah, I think you waited too long at quarterback 1 and 2, to be honest. I would rather have Goff as a QB2 rather than QB1. I don't really want him as a QB1. And there's honestly no shot on planet Earth I'm taking Kyron Williams that high. I actually kind of like Kyron at his current value, but essentially what you said by taking him this high is that you value Kyron Williams over relatively around the 104 to 106 in terms of a rookie draft price tag around the assets that you took him around. And to me, that's just too early. Okay, you take Saquon, you're committed to a win now. I get that. But I would rather take, like you did already, James Cook 3.5 rounds late or 3 rounds later than taking Kyron that high. I would have rather taken Dak Prescott with that Kyron Williams pick or some other competitive asset and then then you go Dak and Goff as your quarterbacks. Then you could take running backs later on.
Let me add to it too. So keep on the team for a second. I just think you're kind of on this team specifically structurally lost, because after you make that investment with the 2 running backs, you also don't need 3 tight ends, especially you take Kittle to 6'8". You don't need Ingram and Taylor. In fact, you would have been better suited taking win now assets at wide receiver specifically. I just don't see enough point equity at the wide receiver position for what I'd expect to be a win now team. And whether that's like you said, if you take a Prescott or a wide receiver at that 4'8", and then the other one comes off the board where you took Trey Harris. I like Trey Harris, but realistically, like, for your team specifically, given the fact that you went to compete, Devontae Adams would help you out way more. Same thing with, for example, like I said, with Evan Ingram. First of all, I just disagree with the value of Ingram. I don't think he's a guy that's worth the 10-8. I think he was force-fed targets in the Jacksonville situation. I don't think it's going to be nearly that ideal in Denver. So that's just a micro player take, but also the fact that structurally you needed more point equity at receiver. In fact, if you had taken Michael Pittman where you took Evan Ingram, and then if you took you kind of had to take K-Rich where you did because he was the only other available quarterback.
You could have taken Stafford or Geno, and when I would,
they were off the board. They were off the board.
Were they? Okay.
The issue though is you got yourself into that hole because you didn't take a quarterback 2 before that.
Yeah, I would have, instead of taking Ingram, I would have just simply taken a quarterback. That would have been what I would have done.
Yeah, that or again, like I probably would have taken a quarterback earlier, but even if you got to the spot where everything else in the first 9 rounds were the exact same, if you had taken your quarterback where you took Ingram and you taken a wide receiver like Pittman where you took A-Rich, I think you would have had a much better structurally built draft to try and contend.
Yeah, is Ryan the first team?
For sure.
Yeah?
Ryan is the first team, yes.
Yeah, okay. Lamar Jackson.
Shout out the Flock League, by the way.
Yes. Lamar Jackson, Hampton. I just personally wouldn't take Hampton that high. That'd be the only thing that I would say about this draft so far. I would have taken Hunter or Nix or Stroud or McConkey or somebody like that.
There's one of 2 ways, because I think everything else on this team I actually really like. You waited on quarterback 2. Maybe you're higher on Penix than we are, whether that's for us, JJ McCarthy for me, or Bryce Young for you. You take Michael Penix there. I think that's perfectly fine to wait and grab your quarterback 2 there. I also think where you grab these wide receivers, your anchor with A.J. Brown, Evans, Judy, Ridley, Noel, McMillan, like you built out a solid receiver core. You got 2 tight ends, obviously Andrews and Likely. Like maybe I personally wouldn't take them both, but I understand why you did it. You're banking on one being the tight end, one for Lamar Jackson, who have correlated on this team. For me personally, where you went wrong is structurally, you either take a receiver where you take Amari and Hampton, or you take a receiver where you take Josh Jacobs. I don't think you can take both running backs.
Yeah, I also, so I love Breece. I'm like, it even hurts me to say this, but I'm getting worried that Breece Hall is maybe overvalued a little
over Bucky and Trevion specifically. I would take.
I'm getting worried about Breece Hall. Like I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like I want to just be fuck this. Breece is gonna be back to 2021 or 2022, 2023 Breece. But I'm getting nervous that the comments that keep coming out from the Jets is going towards more of a committee. And ultimately, I think he can win out a committee still because he's a much better running back than the guys in his backfield. But I'm getting a little bit worried about Breece Hall. I'm not going to lie.
Shoot me in the replies. Shoot me in the draft live stream. But there was a lot of buzz with the Cowboys and Pickens for like a month before they ended up trading for Pickens. There's been a similar drumbeat for the Cowboys and Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that about Breece.
Like,
when the vibe check is so bad on a player, it's hard to just blindly follow what you think of the player.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It's hard to blindly think that the Jets are just stupid and they don't see what we see.
I was more so saying it like them saying running back by committee could actually be them referring to Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen because they do plan on moving Brees.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. What I heard reported officially was the Jets were willing to listen to offers on Brees Hall, not actively shopping him. Like if somebody blew their doors off and sent them a Cowboys second-round pick or something, they might have actually done it. But it sounds like they're not thinking that way now. And this committee talk is based on the fact that they want Brees healthy.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening. We got a few months to just diagnose the if, ands, or buts, but realistically,
I lean towards taking the value on him from like a best ball and a redraft and a dynasty standpoint. But I'm not going to say, like, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, is Brees Hall going in the 40s or whatever he's going on Underdog a sane take? I would say everybody who thinks this is mentally not okay. But now I'm like, I get it, but I'm still taking the value.
Yeah. No, I think that's reasonable.
Let's move over to the flock questions here because we do have plenty of teams to break down and some trade questions. Let's get it sorted.
You guys.
I'm going to sort it by trade questions first, just so we can get those. Is this going to let me do this? Just so we can get those out of the way before. Okay, I'll just go to them first. We have some trade questions. We have some team reviews. We'll do the trade questions first just because they're faster, and then we will go over the team reviews. So first trade question on the docket here. And again, if you guys want to submit a question to be answered, I have the link pinned in the chat down below. C4MW says, won the league this year, been trying to move Jalen Waddle. And the trade that he has on the table right now is he would be selling Jalen Waddle in return, receiving his teammate Tyreek Hill and getting an early to mid second of liquidity kind of backup because obviously Waddle as of this moment is worth a little bit more than Tyreek on the open market. Let me just take a quick look at the team. This isn't a team review, but obviously I'm going to just take a look to see if you are in fact a contending team. Because if you are, then you kind of are in a position. So you're buying Tyreek from a contender. You'd be getting on a contender, Tyreek. I think this is an easy trade to make, to be honest. This is the team he'd be adding Tyreek to and taking Waddle off of. I think he'd be a pretty good contender with Tyreek on this roster.
Absolutely. Also, shout out Scott's Tots, the OG, if you remember.
Yeah, we were once in a league called Scott's Tots, is what Danny is referring to. But yeah, I think I like the, especially knowing you're getting an early to mid 2 to just kind of back up your side of this deal. I really like this trade for you. Because Waddle is he's frustrating, man. I get Waddle could hypothetically give you another 14 to 15 point per game season, but I don't know.
Dude, really, like I would take Waddle, but if someone said I sold Waddle for a 2026 early to mid 2, I would have been, okay, sure. You got Tyreek Hill on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, just to answer a question from Toast here, just in case anybody doesn't know, we are not sponsored by Flock. We, along with Mason, along with the domain guys, along with the land guys, all have essentially our Patreons on one place. Yep. So you can get all of our rankings, all of our draft guides by signing up on this site. And if you use our code, you get extra benefits from us. If you use a different code, you get extra benefits from them. And that's kind of the system that we have worked out. And you're directly financially supporting whoever's code you use as well. But we're not sponsored by Flock. We are a part of Flock, and that's why we're all in the Flock League together. Underdog is our official partner. So that is the difference of the two situations there. But anyways, Tyreek in the second, that's the side I like there as well.
Yep.
For some reason it's not updating the question status. But anyways, let's move on to Mitchell here. He says, my wide receivers are Chase, Puka, London, Ayuk, DK, Rice, Jennings, Leggett, all these guys here. And no first round pick. Do I trade London for 102, Amari and Hampton, given the strength of that wide receiver core?
I think it's a reasonable trade from a value perspective. If I look on my rankings over on Flock Fantasy, yes, I do have London ranked higher. But if we go to Dynasty rankings, boom, I'll plug that in, go to Superflex. Sorry, it was sorted by.
I mean, in the draft that we just did, Drake London is valued as my 24th overall player, and that's exactly where Omari and Hampton was just drafted.
So, well, that's what I was about to say. So, I technically speaking, like it does show a little bit of a tier gap there. But I have 24 London, I have 26 overall Omari and Hampton. 2-3 turn, both of them are reasonable. if this is the position you're in terms of your receivers versus your running backs, and you're in a league where maybe harder to come by with running backs, start 10, half PPR. Another factor, also half PPR is going to lend itself towards the running back with a big workload like Omarion versus the receiver inherently. So, yeah, I think it's reasonable. Like, obviously, if you can get a little bit of juice, like a third or something on top, you'd be nice. But if you have to accept this deal outright, I think it's fine.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that you appear to be a contender, just given the strength of your wide receiver core, and also that you have like some other aging running backs and stuff. So the one thing I might try and do is sell Ayuk instead and see what kind of running back you can get production wise for Ayuk. Because if you can get somewhere in the neighborhood of
Chase Brown, can you
Chase
add
Brown,
add to Ayuk?
Book potentially, like, I don't know. I think I'd be interested in selling Ayuk for something like that if you could do it.
Okay, so let's actually plot that out. So let's say Ayuk currently on the expert consensus is ranked as the wide receiver 27, 81st overall valuation. Chase Brown, if we plug him in, is ranked as the RB 13, 70th overall. Now, obviously, if you plug that in straight up, Chase Brown side is going to be winning. But I'm curious, does it say he has like maybe like a second you can add? Like, do you have like a late 2? If we plugged in the late 2 here, would that reasonably get you to the Chase Brown here? Brandon Ayuk plus 25.
Pulling his stuff here.
Yeah. Let's just say it was Brandon Ayuk plus a 2025 late 2. That comes out as an exact fair trade. If you sort it by my rankings, boom, I have Ayuk 98. I have Chase Brown 47. So it might be a little bit, it's a little bit more skewed towards the Chase Brown side. But specifically, if you sort by the expert rankings, 2025 late 2 plus Brandon Ayuk should be able to get you a Chase Brown.
Yeah, me and you are higher on Chase Brown. That's
absolutely
why. So
he's my 47th overall player.
Yeah, so I'm just going to refresh this just because it's kind of being stupid on me at the moment.
Yep.
Let me play the YouTube URL in just to make sure we're good.
Young Money made a good point too. Like, I think Chuba for Ayuk is also reasonable.
Chuba for Ayuk is reasonable. I think, I'm not like huge on Kenneth Walker, but if you were a big Kenneth Walker guy, you could talk me into something like that. I wouldn't probably go full status contender and grab McCaffrey or something like that. But I don't know, if you could get a plus of, draft capital on in return, you could maybe even.
I'd take McCaffrey over Ayuk.
I would probably want like some draft capital, just give myself a little bit of youth potential, like a 2-for-3 swap or something like that.
If you can, sure. But like, where do I have them ranked respectively? Respectfully. Like, I have them basically almost straight up ranked even, or actually that's by expert. Let me search by my own. I have McCaffrey ranked higher straight up.
Yeah. I think to answer the question outright, I prefer London over Hampton.
I do too.
So I would rather keep London and trade Ayuk because you are presumably a contender, or Rice too, for what it's worth. Both Ayuk and Rice are coming off of major injuries. You could trade one of those guys because they're not really going to help you point production wise.
But if you have to make this move in a half PPR, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I do prefer London in a vacuum there. So that's a team review. We'll just get ripped through the trade questions first, and then we'll get through the team reviews. A mid-second for Brian Thomas? Okay, hold on. What would you do? Brown for BTJ was going to draft running back, but because no first till 2028.
So is this Brown plus a second?
Let me just see which Brown he's referring to.
I'm assuming AJ.
Most basic last name you could have possibly picked to not include a first name here.
I'm assuming AJ, because otherwise he would have said a Monra, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be Chase Brown also.
AJ.
Yeah, AJ Brown. Okay. So this isn't a team review, but let me just give you some free advice here. You can't compete with this team. This is not a competitive roster. You are not in the business of selling draft capital, and you're not in the business of having no first round picks till 2028. Because
how many picks does he have?
He's
the number one valuation in his league.
Yeah, that's weird.
Go up to the bars.
It's just because he has Hurts and Allen.
Okay, go up to the bars though. I am curious what the bars say.
It's all quarterback. It's all quarterback.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
His team is being completely buoyed by Allen and Hurts.
Yeah. It's a start 8, so keep that in mind. It is a 14-teamer.
Yeah, I mean, having Allen and Hurts in a 14-team super flex is pretty broken, to be honest. You're going to be smoking people with that.
Mid-2025 mid-second, I'm assuming that's the 206 he's saying. So would you give
which is actually the 208 in a 12-man league.
Which is the 20th overall pick. I'm giving that
Kyle
up.
Williams
I'm
or
giving that
something
up for
like that.
BTJ every time. I'll figure the
Yeah.
rest out later.
If you can go AJ plus that for BTJ, again, ultimately, I think that's fine. I didn't actually realize this was a 14-teamer, so your team looks a little bit better in retrospect. But I'd be careful with selling ones and selling picks and stuff because you do kind of need to rebuild the depth of this roster. Because if you can hit on some rookie picks, suddenly this team's going to be a juggernaut because of the quarterbacks that you have.
For sure. Appreciate you, though, Betty Bow.
And Jace Plant says, was pondering this trade. I'm 90% sure I'll get Hunter at 105. So
interesting.
So you'd be selling off the 101 and Smith for Malik Neighbors. I think I'm comfortable doing this, to be honest.
He'd be getting the 101 and Devontae Smith for Malik Neighbors.
Oh, okay. I think
so this is a one quarterback league. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Malik Neighbors, my third overall player in one quarterback.
Yeah.
Like I would rather have Malik Neighbors.
I'm saying one quarterback league, like the first two picks aren't just going to be non-quarterbacks anyways. Start 10 teams, start 9. It's close because it's like Genty and Smith and a 10-team start 9 are actually like solid, but
Dog, your teams. I get why you're doing this now because you have Lamb and London and Odunze and all these guys at wide receiver, and you want a running back. And I think Genty would go a long way to make this team better.
Oh, is he getting the running? Oh, right.
Yeah, he's getting Genty and Smith on a team and pivoting off of Neighbors. It makes it closer now. It makes it closer. In a vacuum, I would just prefer Neighbors. But now that you're like repositioning assets to get an elite running back.
Okay, go back. Go down to the guy with Devontae in the 101's team. I want to see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like
he's just trying to pivot around, getting a young wide receiver essentially.
Yeah, fuck.
I mean, my question to you would be, how much more would it cost him to add in like Chase Brown to this deal? Like, let's say
I would rather say, can you counter what
you
Chase
get?
Brown?
Like, I would not rather have Chase Brown than Devontae Smith, but would it cost much more to give him Neighbors plus something else like the 110, for example, or even less, potentially the 203 and another piece or something like that, or Waddle or something for Devontae Smith, Chase Brown, and the 101 would be my question.
Yeah, if you can do that, I would also.
That would make it a little bit better because then you can reposition some of your competitive running back assets.
How about this? How about Neighbors plus Kenneth Walker for that exact? So just count. If you counter this package and you got Chase Brown and he got Kenneth Walker, do you think he goes for it?
So you want he gets Kenneth Walker and you're just upgrading from Kenneth Walker to Chase Brown, essentially?
Correct. If you're gonna make this deal, because I do agree you need a running back, but I also think you have the affordability to ship off a Kenneth Walker for a Chase Brown if you can make that upgrade too. And this guy's got no motivation to carry on the production value of Brown versus Walker.
Yeah, I mean, if you can pull off a move like this, that would be great. Maybe you could even pull it off for less. Who knows? Like maybe Kenneth Walker you wouldn't even have to pay that. Maybe all he needs is the 203 because he has a rebuilding team. He might just be interested in draft capital or whatever.
You don't know a timeout feature, so good for you, brother. Actually, you know what?
God, you can't just put him in timeout for disagreeing with you.
Oh, he doesn't disagree with me. I don't know ball. Okay, I'll give you the floor. Type it down below. Explain why you don't know ball or why I don't know ball. If I think it's a good, valid argument in the comments, I'll let you live. If it's not, you're going in the gulag. You're going in the timeout zone. So let's hear it. How don't I know ball? How don't I know ball? Explain.
Let's say really quick.
You're confident making the take. Explain it, dude.
This is the trade. Are you doing it or no? This is all. He doesn't want to do anything else. Let's say no. Yeah, I agree.
It's just more so like I don't think Devontae Smith is the needle mover enough to make this deal, and I think Malik Neighbors could be the one.
And I'm higher on Smith than you, and I agree.
Yeah.
So
no, Dewey, I have enough respect for you, Dewey, to give you the floor, make your case in the comments. How I don't know ball. If it's a satisfactory answer, if it's one that I'm satisfied with, I'll let you live. If not, straight to the gulag, unfortunately.
Danny's going straight dictatorship in the chat.
The thing is, Jay Meadow, my Tone Setter Truthers team is probably like my 5th best team in my portfolio.
Anyways, let's get going on these trade questions because we are basically giving full team reviews for trade questions. Matthew Golden, Tyler Warren for Brock Purdy. AJ is the one who
said read the comment. Oh, this is another thing.
This is my team that he's asking for this. This is Tone Setter Truthers. No, hold on. This is no flock. And never mind. I take that back. This is no flock.
He already made the deal. No, look at the messages.
I see. Okay. He already made the deal. I'm going to look at his team really quick just because I want to make sure. Okay. Obviously needed a quarterback. Had Colston Loveland already and Kyle Pitts, so that's why you're getting rid of Warren. And then who was the other player in the deal?
Golden.
Matthew Golden. Okay, Matthew Golden, you already had a very good wide receiver core, so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a good deal for Purdy, personally.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Start 10 league, you need a quarterback.
I may have wanted a slightly better quarterback than Purdy, but I'm not going to fight you too much on this.
Yeah.
So I'll take the Purdy side there, and I think that might be all of our questions. Really quick. Davis's thing here.
Hopefully, I didn't scare you off, Dewey. Like, I would love to see your elaboration in the comments. I don't know where you went. I would love to see you respond.
Keyboard warrior, I fear.
I would love to. Hey, you got my attention. That's what you wanted, right? I'd love to see you respond.
Yeah. Buddy on the right does not know ball. See, I would square up to you, AJ, but I fear I might pass away in minutes.
Yeah. AJ might be one of the only guys in chat that I wouldn't take on for that, because he is probably one of the only few in here that I can confidently say can outlift me.
Yeah, like over under 7.4 seconds before I'm dead.
Dude, I swear to God, we talk about how AJ is a unit every time that he's in stream, but like the guy might be one of the strongest motherfuckers I've ever seen.
But here's the thing. The chat has no proof that he's a unit. For all we know, he could be throwing up 2 10s on either side of a bench press.
210s on either side of the bench press.
Anyways,
not wrong, by the way. He is like AJ. You can let them know. What are you at now on your bench? Fucking 550, right?
He's wearing belts. Like anybody who's wearing a belt at a gym is someone I'm personally terrified of. Yeah. If you need a belt to make sure you don't get a hernia or whatever it's for, I'm personally scared of you.
He's stuck at 470. Sorry. Also, Young Money. My peak on the bench was actually 375.
Danny is big? Question mark.
I'm a big boy. By the way, 28 likes is crazy. There's currently 124 of you watching right now. I want to see at least, can we get 75 likes? Like that's not even asking for 80% of you. That's asking for what, 60% of the chat to like.
Yeah.
Okay, Matthew, I see you. Are you at 415?
Matthew Lil Fuck Smith.
Yeah. Danny is around, but respectfully, we love him. Respectfully around. Yeah, I'm a big boy. Hey, don't worry. The lean's gonna hit hard.
Okay. The Gooseland IPAs of Fearless Goose is also kind of an elite fantasy name that he has here. Yeah. Let's rip this team review. Again, if you guys want team reviews, you guys can see them in the chat there. He's in rough shape by the looks of it.
Yep.
Is a Dynasty 2 quarterback, 12 teams start 10, PPR, half tight end premium. And it's kind of mid across the board of this roster. You don't have bad players by any means, but you have absolutely no difference makers.
No hammers.
No hammers whatsoever. You're pretty weak at running back, bunch of young players. Ideally, maybe one of these guys become a hammer for you. But you're in a position right now where you just have a bunch of mid across the board. You have 2 1s next year, a couple of 3s, no 2s, no extra 1s in 2027. This is a tough situation to navigate out of because you kind of need to consolidate assets, and hopefully your league mates don't really realize what you're doing. But that would be my first step. Find a team like this team, for example. This guy is Genty. He had 101. Find a team around some of these bad teams, like Travis Hunter right here for Dylan Panthers, also very common fantasy team name. Yeah. This guy is St. Brown. Like getting hammers on your roster by consolidating would be the first step that I take with this team.
Was this a startup this year? I'm curious. So check up at the top.
I'm gonna check his if he typed anything in the
for this being the 11th highest value team. That like this is better than a normal 11. So I'm curious, like how is he at 11th?
I mean, part of it is I think that
needle movers, right?
The way that our algorithm is structured in the My Teams feature is that when you don't have needle movers, like your team is just not really valued that highly.
And it's unfortunate because you basically need to swing and hit on somebody big because you have the depth around it. It's just in a start 10 league, you have too many relevant players. Oh, this is an orphan you took over.
He took over, he said.
Okay, that makes more sense. All right. So you got the picks this year. You've built around it. That's why okay. That makes a lot more sense now. Okay, so let's go with that frame of mind. What's your direction here? Are you continuing to see if you can maybe make upgrades on young talent? Like Are you consolidating a couple players like a Matthew Golden plus a Jamison Williams or a Brandon Ayuk plus an RJ Harvey? Like what kind of direction are you kind of looking at here?
So part of me thinks that because this is an orphan that you took over, I don't know what the buy-in situation was, but maybe you had years covered.
You could also monopolize 2026.
What I was going to say is monopolizing 26 and 27 picks, because I know specifically in 2027, there are going to be difference makers at the top of that draft class. I would definitely try and consider doing that so that you're able to get difference makers that way. And in doing so, you'd be kind of still tearing this roster down, even though Xavier Worthy is young, even though Matthew Golden is young, even though Luther Burden is young. Guys like that, if you can cash them out and put into future picks, you could always go in that direction. But it's all going to come down to what the league market is on stud assets. Because if you're in the type of league where people, because it's a start 10, it's deep enough that people could convince themselves depth is important, 2-quarterback league, that kind of thing. Does Brandon Ayuk plus Jamison Williams get you anywhere near the vicinity of a needle-moving asset?
And the thing that gives me pause as well is you just have a lot of risk at quarterback. And there's upside. Like, I think the best case scenario for this team is both Bryce Young and Michael Penix take a step up, are top 12 to 15 dynasty quarterbacks after this year, which will happen if they do have relatively good years based off expectations. And at that point, if you're upping the quarterback value specifically on this team, you're inherently going to be valued higher on the Flock Analyzer. It's just outside of that specifically, that's your path to getting maybe needle-moving production or needle-moving value assets.
Yeah, young players getting better is how you get there. Like, let's say Worthy takes a huge step forward, becomes a great player. One of Golden or Burden hits big, and they become great players. One of your tight ends becomes a locked and loaded dude. Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, or Rondé Gatson. They become locked and loaded guys for you. You're essentially you have a really young team that's not probably going to be able to compete. So anybody that's not a competitive asset or is a competitive asset, Brandon Ayuk and George Pickens being the two most obvious that I can see off the top of my head. I'd be okay pivoting into more pick capital specifically. Get some players off of this team that are going to produce, pivot it into more pick capital, and maybe try and monopolize the 2026 class and get whatever difference makers we get out of that group.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be your best interest. You have a good team of all-around guys, but you need the needle movers in the start 10. If this was like a start 12, start 13 team, I would actually be more optimistic about your team, knowing that there's more people in your league that are probably hungry for depth, and you have so much of it to be able to make those moves. Because it's a start 10, those guys just simply are not pushed in acquiring more depth. So like Bush said, if you can monopolize the next couple of classes to give yourself the best chance at the highest value darts, because you have a good amount of darts layered across the board. You don't just need, it's kind of like the saying, like, you know, when you go to, what's it called? When you take like a lottery ticket and it's like the main prize is hitting on a bigger ticket. Like there's some of those like things that they have. So for you, it's like you have a lottery ticket that's like good value now, but you kind of need to hit on the higher valued one, which would be potentially tanking for the 2026 101, or potentially put yourself in a position where you have a few 2027 picks and maybe get a Jeremiah Smith, maybe get by then a DJ Lagway has developed, a Ryan Williams. Like there's just so many names in the next couple of years that could eventually be a Travis Hunter or an Ashton Genty that you need to put yourself in position for. So although we don't think like you got a lot of good young talent, and typically in these scenarios, we wouldn't want to trade young talent right away prematurely. But there's a difference if that young talent was kind of delegated towards your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, we can get more excited. When you're banking on one of them developing into your wide receiver 1, I would just rather focus that on more high upside pieces with the 2026 and 2027 early picks if you can get there.
Yeah, again, gauging the league market on elite players is step number one. If it's no dice, go to the bad teams in the league. Like I said, gauge the talent on their elite players, Travis Hunter types, Jamar Chase types, those type of players. Yep. And if it's no dice for players like that, then you might need to draft those guys. And you already have spent a boatload of picks, obviously. And who knows, maybe one of these running backs becomes a top 6 dynasty running back for you. Maybe one of your quarterbacks does really just absolutely hammer
this reminds me of?
Season.
This kind of reminds me of where I was at in Flock Me Silly in year 1 out of the startup where I traded down. I had picks, but like I kind of had just like a lot of like young talent that I was hoping to develop. And you've seen what I've done with that roster. I basically gutted it down to the core and just acquired a bunch of picks with it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the direction you have to take, but sometimes you do hit on some of those picks and you get the next Bucky Irving or the next Puka Nacua or the next, guy that you didn't expect maybe to have like a ton of value become super valuable for you. So good luck with this team. Again, it's an orphan. It's not, I've definitely seen worse orphans in this situation. There's a lot of good players on this team for an orphan and a lot of picks by the looks of it that you spent this year.
Trust me. The fact too, like we can already see, you mentioned you moved some older vets, you acquired some young talent. You're already doing the right step. It's just about now, if you can sell high and get yourself in position to get higher value picks next year, 101, 102, 104, 105, those type of value picks, that is your best way to getting the green label players, is what we refer to them as on the site, as top 10 type of guys at their position.
Yeah, the one thing I might have done differently in the rookie draft is it looks like you had a lot of picks, 109 to 202 or whatever. I might have either tried to move up or punt picks into future draft classes. Yeah. That would have been the only thing I would have done a little bit differently. But
I am the most, how do I describe it? I am the most like picky when it comes to picks. You've seen me, Corey. When I'm on the clock and I think it's like a fine selection, but I'm not in love with the pick, I am scouring the earth. I'm messaging everybody in the league to see what type of equatable value I can get. And like I said, Flock Me Silly is the best example. How many trades did I make since the start of the rookie draft?
Yeah, I mean, I deal all over the place during rookie drafts too. And it's usually, I usually am dealing up most of the time because people don't like giving me future rookie picks because we make content for a living. So people don't trust us to just sell their first round too. But I do deal around the board a lot, especially when I view tier breaks, among rookie picks and that kind of thing. And I might have gotten a little bit more aggressive with a team like that, trying to get up to like a 105 or a 104 or something. But anyways, Ace Strout, next team that we got here, he said, "Hey lads, love the content. Have this team in its rookie draft coming up soon. The team is in a decent spot. If he can make a few moves, just wondering if you think it's worth trying to tier pieces up." So guess exactly basically what I just mentioned. Should I try and move up in the draft? And then he said, "Thanks for all your help." So 12 team league. 2 quarterback, 12 teams, start 10, non-tight end premium, full PPR. Ace Strout's team is called Ace Strout 21. So that's pretty easy. And looks like a classic FSE type of shell where you've got 2 really, really, really good running back prospects that could be on the board for you. If you walked out of this rookie class with Amarian Hampton and Trevion Henderson, your team's in business, man, because you got 2 great young quarterbacks. I mean, quarterback 3 is an issue at the moment, but 2 great young quarterbacks, great receiver core, a lot of young guys. You know, you got to shed some production pieces.
Hey, just no green labels, but as close as you can get to green labels.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would rather have London, Harrison, McConkey as my 3 stack than like Chase, Higgins, and Olave as my 3 stack or something, where you had that one green guy. And, I'd rather have, I think there's like a tier break at the top 14, 15 receivers, and I would love to have 3 of them, which is what you have in this situation. So I feel really good about that. He said, should I get aggressive? My question to you would be, do you think Amarian Hampton's going 102 or 103? Because if you think Amarian Hampton's going 102 or 103, then yeah, you probably should get aggressive and maybe move up just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree here. You have the affordability to be able to move up a couple spots if needed. I would be curious. The only maybe combatant that I would have to that is if you know for certain you can get Travis Hunter at the 104, just take out Travis Hunter, figure out your position after, whether that's you have to move a Garrett Wilson for a running back, whether that's you have to move a McConkey for a running back. If Travis Hunter is there at the 104, there's just no world where I'm willing to give up plus to move on to an inferior player.
Yeah, well, in worst case scenario, you're going to have Tedero McMillan on the board because the way you and I have it ranked is that Hampton and Hunter would be off the board by 104. But in that situation, you're getting yet another top 15 dynasty receiver to add to this situation. And again, what can you get for Wilson? What can you get for McConkey? What can you get for Harrison? What can you get for McMillan? What can you get for London? Whatever guy, I wouldn't be married to any which one of them being on my team or off my team. Whatever guy can pivot into a running back for you, maybe you can sell, let's say, Garrett Wilson straight up.
Can Cooper Kupp get you James Conner?
Yeah, I mean, that's another option as well, is you could just go with the straight competitive running backs and go with kind of like almost a 0 RB type of build. Because in a start 10 league, presumably you can start 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes every single week. And you can get pretty much all of these wide receivers into your receiver core. The other thing too is Odunze might have some fans around your league as well. You could sell Odunze. I know you have Caleb for like the stack, but you could sell Odunze for a running back in the trying to think range wise where I would be thinking about
Odunze for running back. So Odunze, I have
Chase Brown probably range, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable doing that. I think you might even be able to get Chase Brown plus on the market because the
Yeah,
market
so
just has Chase Brown buried for some reason.
either way,
Yeah,
if Hampton's going to go 102, for example, I would just sit pat at 104 and just take whatever falls to you.
Yeah.
What I would absolutely want to do, though, is make sure I get Trevion Henderson with my 106. So if you think he's going to go 105, let's find the team who has 105. Is he going to
let's check
Cam
both.
Ward?
Let's check the 102, 103 teams and the 105 teams.
So this team needs a. He might. This
He's
guy's
taking Hampton.
He's going to take Hampton. He could take Ward though, for what it's worth. He only has one quarterback. So you're hoping that this guy does not. He's not going to take a receiver. Most casual, I don't know how casual this league is, but most dynasty players wouldn't take a receiver in this situation. I think at least.
Tyler Warren.
Yeah, 105. This guy has Hurts and Bo Nix, so this guy is probably not a risk to take.
Taking Henderson.
Ward. He's probably going to take Henderson. So
or T-Mac.
Yeah, but you'd presumably be probably taking T-Mac at 104.
Where's
101? This guy's going to take Genty most likely. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. This guy's got kind of a shallow team. With your 104, if it doesn't cost you too much to go get Genty, I wouldn't be opposed to getting Genty either. Because I have done this in leagues already where I'm like, dude, I would love to just go get a guy like Genty and be really set at that running back position because I don't think you're going to get Henderson at 106. Okay. And to me, it's a smidge early for Judkins. I would probably just take Ward most likely at 106 in this situation with your team because you could also use a third quarterback for what it's worth and just figure the rest out later. But let's say all it costs you to go from 104 to 101 because that guy doesn't have a super great team
Odunze
is 104 and Odunze.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I was literally just plugging that in, and it equates to fair value on the site. 104 we have valued as a 35 overall in consensus. Rome Odunze we have at 60 overall in consensus. Genty at 15.7. So
with this guy, given his wide receiver core, he probably wants a wide receiver more than a running back anyways. Would he consider trading down to 104, knowing that he's probably going to get Tedero McMillan or Travis Hunter with that selection and get Odunze to go along with it? He might be interested.
Well, that's the thing. If it's Hunter, I don't do it though. Hunter's just different.
Well, you're not. I mean, you could wait until after he spends this selection or whatever, but you could tell him, hey, I would like to
tell him before the draft. Say, hey, listen, depending on how the board breaks, I could be interested in moving up from the 104. Would 104 plus Odunze get it done? Say it before the draft, but don't agree to anything concrete because, like I said, if Hunter falls at the 104, I'm not giving up Hunter plus Odunze for Genty. As much as I love Genty, it's really just more I love Hunter.
Yeah, and the other thing you could do too is give up a better receiver and get a receiver back potentially.
Yeah.
Like you could go 104 plus Ladd for Addison in 101 or get somewhere in that neighborhood. Maybe you have to give him 211 to get that done as well. But regardless, I think you could get creative with this team. That's the best case scenario. Like I said, Hampton falls to you at 104, but I don't think he will. 106, Henderson falls to you and you just go on your merry way. I think you're going to have to maneuver the board and get smart with this. You could also trade for a veteran running back with those selections. I just want to see who has those type of guys. I would probably not want to give up the 106 for Jonathan Taylor, but I suppose you could talk me into it. Same goes for Jacobs.
I'm good.
B-Rob, no. I mean, this guy has Brees. You could go after Brees with the 106. I think that would be a reasonable thing to do.
That's reasonable. Although
this guy's no receivers too. He might be down to do that because he just doesn't want to have running back production on his team. You can see how much more on top of 104 you could get to Jahmyr. Like maybe you could give him both of these picks plus more for Jahmyr Gibbs and Brees.
Bro, sorry, this guy's team is just structured so weirdly.
Yeah. Would you do this? Let me just ask you this. Would you give up 104, 106 and Rome Odunze for Jahmyr Gibbs and Brees Hall?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be something that you could explore as well.
Yeah, in a heartbeat, absolutely.
You're going to have to get creative, though. Let's just put it that way. Like, I think it's possible you get locked out of running back with both of these selections. And if that happens and you weren't able to move up or down or whatever, Tedero, McMillan, and Cam Ward are probably your picks. And you figure the rest out later and you trade other wide receivers for running backs and vice versa. Yeah,
just play your equatable value. Obviously, you have access to our rankings on the site. Notice, prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. Your worst case here is that Tet McMillan is the best player available at 4, and then Trevion Henderson goes at 105.
Yeah, exactly. That's your worst case scenario, and then you can figure it out from there. Yeah. Maybe you have to sell McConkey for a running back. Maybe you can have to, whatever.
Let's just say that's the scenario that ended up happening. Those were the two picks at 104, 106. Don't even worry about the 211 yet. Okay, say you have Cam Ward and say you have Tet McMillan in your core. Go to teams that may be interested in Cam Ward.
Okay, so this guy doesn't have any quarterbacks at all.
Yeah. even after the draft, if you needed to say, hey, listen, I noticed you need a quarterback more than anything on your roster right now. You have your receiver set. You just took Amari Hampton, but I'd be willing to give you Cam Ward plus to get Amari Hampton off your hands. So that way you can fill your quarterback need. And then maybe that plus that you get can supplement your running back.
Yeah. Like 211 plus your 26-2 or something like that gets that done potentially.
Yeah. And then in terms of the Tet McMillan, again, go to any receiver needy team. It doesn't have to be Tet that you sell specifically, but
I mean, this guy could use Tet, which we already talked about. This guy could use receivers potentially. Chase Brown potentially for Garrett Wilson or for a Romo Dunze or something like that would make some sense.
So like you have options basically, as long as you're creative and you know the value of the assets you have rather than the positions that they play, just use those assets to get equatable players at positions that you actually need. That's how we use the trade market.
Exactly. And that's why we always preach don't draft for need, because you can always make trades later. It is May 8th right now. You don't need to field the starting lineup at this current point in time.
Yeah. Also, Matthew, we're just like not there on Cam Ward personally. Just an evaluation thing.
Absolutely zero chance I would take Cam Ward.
105, 106 is for
absolutely needed a quarterback so effing bad. I could hear out a case that you would take him over Tet McMillan at 104, but the absolute highest I would take him is 105.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Top of that, like you don't have to like just take a quarterback that we have ranked higher with the 102 asset that you have.
Exactly.
You get almost any quarterback.
You can go trade for a better quarterback than Cam Ward with the 102.
If you're this high on Cam Ward, then take him as early as you want. Like genuinely. It's a difference in evaluation for sure.
Cam Ward is more in line with the evaluation I had on Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy last year to give you an idea of where I had Cam Ward ranked. Kaner has listed here. I have Shuck and Knoll on this team as well. What moves would you guys be looking to make? And then he's got this as his team. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Tyler Shuck listed there. Breece Hall, RJ Harvey. Pretty good. I like this running back core. This is like a lot of like the way that I would have a running back core built out. Really thin at wide receiver behind your top two studs. Contending wide receivers, you have good production pieces, but like value wide receivers and whatnot, a little bit thin there. And then Kittle, Kelsey as your main tight ends. Doesn't have his 2026 one, but did pick up an extra couple mid-round picks. Also doesn't have his 27 1 or 2. So it looks like he's pretty all in at this point in time.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking through it.
He doesn't really have any like questions specifically. He's basically just saying, this is what this is what I'm at. Would you make any moves kind of thing? Because you're kind of stuck competing without your 1 and 2 next year.
Yeah, because there's not really much we can get creative of here. You don't have your picks and you have a lot of aging assets. You have to compete in the next couple of years. See where you're at after 2 years of competing, 2025, 2026 seasons. And honestly, probably 2027 because you also don't have your 2027 one. After these 3 years, which I think, again, it's a little risky. What if Tyreek retires? Or what if Dave Montgomery gets washed at that point? Or what if like there's a lot of risk with this roster. I mean, Kelsey, for fuck's sakes, might retire after the season. Like there's a lot that can go wrong. But see where you're at after these next couple of years. Specifically after the 2026 season, even though you don't have your 2027 one, you have to be looking cautiously with this team. You're going to be a strong contender in these next couple of years, but you have to make sure the fallout after your contention window doesn't leave you in a spot where you have assets that just simply aren't valued at all.
Yeah, I would say I'd be very comfortable going as all in gets this season and then reevaluating next season. And by that, I mean,
give 2 years.
I'm not married to the 2s and 3s that you have in next year's class. Yeah. If the 2s and 3s that you have in next year's class can be packaged with something to get you more receiver help, I would be fine doing it. Like, let's say this 2 and 3 that he has, let me just see. This guy's got a terrible team, at least in terms of value right now. So it's possible that this guy might have a pretty high 2nd round pick that you have on your hand and a high 3rd round pick that you have on your hand. Can these 2s and 3s plus maybe one of your running backs like a Stevenson or a Najee or something get you a solidified wide receiver in the like Terry McLaurin range potentially?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. You can explore that. Like I said, we usually don't like making all-in moves, but you've already clearly chosen your direction. And for what it's worth, you do have needle movers. You can easily contend and win again this year. I don't know if you won last year, but you can easily contend and win this year. It's just a matter of you don't really have any flexibility. You have to win this year. If you don't win within the next couple of years, this experiment is a failure.
Yeah,
that's how we do it. We think of it like this, like you said, like we don't know what your exact split of your buy-ins in, But let's just say for ease sake, the majority of 12-team leagues, it's usually about what, an 8-3-1 split, 9-3 type.
Yeah, you're getting 8 or 9 buy-ins typically at the very least if you win.
So if you're doing them, you have to win at least one out of every 8 years. Your contention window to win this year or in the next couple of years, slam shut after those 2 years. So
yeah,
if you don't win, you're in a hole. If you do win, it's covered.
I can to win this season. Yeah. To be honest, I think I would do anything I can to win this season, and that includes, by the way, RJ Harvey, great young player. I would sell him for a comparable veteran running back personally. Yeah, in terms of market value, like you have to win with this team. Like you have to win. If somebody's going to give you Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry for RJ Harvey, you should do it. In my opinion,
absolutely, you should. You have to win at the end of the day. That's the position you're in, and like I said, guess what? It's going to be a tough turnaround once you do end up rebuilding this roster. But if you have that payout for the 1 year and you basically front the next 8 years or so of your dynasty experience, then you just have 8 years to make another contender. That's fine. You have 8 years. Basically, let's just say 4 hard rebuild years. It won't even take that long. 2 to 3 hard rebuild years. You collect picks. Maybe you dominate 28, 29 classes. After that, you're just going to get into a new contention window with the younger guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a good way to think about things. So yeah, I would do whatever you can to win this year and potentially next year as well, if your players are still in contending windows.
Also, I just see the chat just consists of Young Money and Matthew arguing about Cam Ward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tend to agree with Young Money. I think calling Cam Ward close to Joe Burrows is straight disrespectful, in my opinion. But RockyVee, next team that we have here, he said rookie draft is on Monday, so good that we're getting to this ASAP. And he said I have a few offers for the 101 this year, 101 for 103 plus. Nico is the most tempting so far, which I think if you can get Hunter, if you can get Hunter with the 103, I would say that is a really good offer for you.
Dude, 103 and Nico Collins every single time. It's not only tempting, it's the offer you have to take.
This is Danny's wet dream. Dude. If you got 103 and Nico Collins. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, if you look at the roster, I'm kind of just tempted to just take Genty with a roster built like this. But that offer is too tempting.
There's no tempting at this point. The tempting thing is getting a top 8 dynasty receiver in the 103 for Genty. Like Nico goes 3 picks after Genty in startups?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty insane offer that you're being offered here for that 101. Somebody, I don't know, maybe you found a Boise State Raider fan or something, like the last review list that we did. Someone said there was a Boise State Raider fan. Maybe you found another one here, because that's an overpay in my opinion for Genty, which I get you kind of need to not select Genty, but that is a hell of an offer that you got on the table there.
Yeah, like sign me up. You get Nico. Guess what? At that point, you want to move Waddle for a running back, Downs for a running back, Devontae for a running, JSN for a running back. That's another option. Hey, if you have Nico Collins and you add Brian Thomas Jr., you add Travis Hunter, maybe falls to you at the 103, or Omarion Hampton falls to you at the 103. That's the other thing too. You are also guaranteed Omarion Hampton or Travis Hunter plus Nico Collins for Ashton Genty.
Yeah. That's a hell of an offer. And you could figure the rest out later. If you're like, I don't want that many receivers or whatever, because it's a start 7 and you want like the best assets possible. It's like, okay, well then package Devontae Smith and Josh Downs and Jalen Waddle together to get an elite running back or something like that. You could kind of figure it out. He did also mention at the top, I believe, he said, my 109 will likely be Egbuka or Warren or Loveland after chatting with league mates. And he needs a tight end pretty badly. So I would definitely lean towards a tight end with that selection. I also have 2 firsts in 2026 that I'm curious if I should consider turning into 27 firsts. I'm not going to galbrain myself into saying, 27 is a better class. Just trade all your 26 firsts for 27 firsts. Yeah. I mean, if you project that a first is going to be mid to late pretty comfortably and you wanted to pivot into a 27 first, that would be one thing. But if you have an early to mid projected or one that could become an early to mid projected first next year, I'd probably just hold. And given that you're going to be a competitive team too, you also like rationally could use one of those first to add pieces to this team. If let's say you do take Tyler Warren, he's out to a great start to his rookie year and your team becomes competitive really fast. But given that you have 101 this year, and if you make that trade, let's say you walk away with Hampton and Nico Collins. Let's say that's what you walk away with. 109, you're able to select a tight end with that pick. 201, 203, 301, 302. You're pretty weak at running back. I would just be hammering running backs in that situation. I would be hammering running backs. 201, welcome to the team, RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson. 203, welcome to the team, whatever best player available is. 301, running back, 302 running back, 306 running back. I'd just be hammering running backs with those selections. He did say he's received some new offers. He said my 101 for 106, a 26 first, and Sam Laporta would be the offer. And a start 7, I'd rather have the 103 and Collins offer, personally.
Yes, easily, in a heartbeat.
Because I love Laporta, and 106, you're probably still looking at Henderson, give or take. Henderson, actually, it is a 1 quarterback league, so you might not be looking at Henderson at that bit because Cam Ward won't go ahead of him. I would say I like the 103 and Nico Collins deal better. He said, I like this one, but my gut says no. Follow your gut. And he said, another offer of my 109, 203, and a 26 second for 107 if Travis Hunter is there. If Travis Hunter falls to 107 and all you have to pay is 109, 203, and a 26 second in a 1 quarterback start 7, you should honestly be willing to pay at least a first more than this to go get Travis Hunter.
I just mentioned I'd be cool taking him at the 103. How is he making it to the 107?
Yeah, I mean, again, you should just take 103 Travis Hunter with your 103.
Yeah, well, if Martin goes 2, especially too, like
just take Hunter at 103. That would be what I would suggest doing. But I mean, if you want to play Rochambeau and spin the Magnum around and think you can get him at 107, then go nuts and just take McMillan at 103 or whatever. But I wouldn't fucking risk it at all. I would just take Hunter.
Rocky, for all we know, you're the luckiest Russian roulette player there is. I still wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Don't play the game. Take the day. You already got a screaming value if he falls to you at the 103.
What I would just do instead is take Hunter at 103, and then if you really wanted to, you could trade up from the 109 and try and go get McMillan if he started to slide or something like that. But yeah, I would not risk it personally.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, obviously, you're in a very good spot. Number 3 value team. You have avenues now to not only become the number 1 value team, but not even close. Like realistically, that Nico Collins and 103 offer alone will vault you from number 3 to number 1. I can tell you that with ease.
I also would not be opposed to at 109 if you didn't want to, because this team is ready to win. Like you get Collins and Hunter on this team or whatever. I would not be opposed to starting to make some moves for competitive type of running backs and tight ends as well. If instead of at 109, you don't want to take, let's say, Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren available to you, and you instead wanted to trade for George Kittle and a competitive running back, you could probably do it with this type of team. Or you wanted to trade for TJ Hawkinson and a competitive running back, you could probably do it with this type of team. So this is where the fun starts. You can get creative with this thing. 201s on the board, and RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson are gone. And 201 plus 301 plus 306 gets you Christian McCaffrey on the open market, or gets you a competitive running back who can be a really, really big needle mover production-wise for you. I'm totally cool doing that. So get creative with this team. Have some fun, because it is going to be a wild ride for you. And CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson's probably good at quarterback, but maybe you could add a third option in this year's class with one of those 2nd or 3rd round picks. You could throw in a potential Milrow or a Dart just to give you a little bit more upside at that position. But in a 1 quarterback league, I'm fine with the 2 you got.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have Zach, who was a resubmission. If you guys recall in our last stream, we needed to send him a voucher to get this submission. Thank God Zach is better than everybody in his league, so he wasn't waiting too long for really specific advice. He said, hey, guys, just looking for your advice on the squad. Lost in the conference finals last year by 0.5. Tough scene. So I went out and made some upgrades. Not sure if you can see the specifics on the trade, but he got Genty or the 101, Laporta, Tet the 104, Golden the 108. During the draft, and he said, big fan and keep up the great work. So
he also he messaged me too. Let me see if I can find it. He has a couple did he add the trade? Sorry, did you say?
No, he didn't add the trades in the chat here. So
okay, I have them separately. Do you want me to read them now, or do you want me to read them in a second? Or
yeah, read the trades now, because we can see how good the team is.
All right. So first deal, he said Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and a 2026 late 2nd for Genty and a 4th. Which, again, Wilson, JSN 2nd, given the context of your team, how loaded it is from a depth perspective, go up, get Genty. I think that's perfectly reasonable. And it's a start 11 league, so it's not like I think like, oh, yeah, you got like an insane deal on it. But at the same time, it's like Wilson, JSN, they're probably worth between them, what, 2 1s and a 2 of value?
Sorry, repeat that 1 second. I'm trying to put in the Ward versus the Ward is an elite quarterback prospect talk is still going on. I think personally,
are they still going at it?
I just want to address it because I think it's a funny conversation, but I think
I haven't even been looking at it.
in the NFL right now would say that not only was Burrow a better prospect, which for what it's worth, Matthew is not arguing that Burrow wasn't a better prospect. Lawrence was a better prospect
Easily.
comfortably. Caleb was a better prospect comfortably. May, Stroud, Daniels, Bryce, all better prospects, in my opinion, very easily than what Cam Ward has been. And if we're going back since 2020, because you said Burrow, he's the best prospect since Burrow, in Burrow's own draft class, Tua and Herbert were better prospects as well.
Yep. You ain't wrong. With that being said, if you did watch the tape and you like Cam Ward, you're going to be high on Cam Ward.
Yeah, you want bags of Cam Ward, and Cam Ward turns into an absolute stud, then you get to come back here and tell us that we were psychos. But I will say, as far as arguing them as prospects, I don't think Cam Ward, even if you think the tape is just generational, would be a consensus take better than those guys if you pulled every GM and scout in the NFL. I think that all of the guys that I just mentioned would probably come out the better prospect, just given that Cam Ward was not thought of as like some elite QB prospect. He just had a good year and a bad draft class, in my opinion.
I will give some credit to Matt. It's like, even though we disagree with the analysis, guess what? If you did the work and that's what you believe, that's what you believe. We're all going to be wrong. We're all going to be right on quarterback evaluation. That's fine. If you're really, really high on Ward and he ends up working out, that's something that you can remind everybody on. Because I can tell you right now too, like 2018, I'm not saying Cam Ward's Lamar Jackson, but I'm just saying if people had Lamar Jackson as quarterback one and the best quarterback prospect they have seen since, I mean, at that time it would have been Andrew Luck. Look how that worked out for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so it's like
the same about Josh Allen in the same draft.
Right? Yeah. So again, like I'm not going to be too hypercritical. I'm not going to say, oh, you're a fucking idiot for disagreeing. It's like, well, no, if you like Cam Ward and that's your thoughts on him, make sure you have 100% of his shares in Dynasty.
Yeah, and I'll be the one who looks stupid for sure, because I have drafted Cam Ward once across 14 leagues because I just frankly don't want to take the risk on him.
Also, he says, I'm assuming he's been arguing with Zach and Boduke about this.
So for Matthew, one thing I will say is before I made content, I was known as the guy arguing that Henry Ruggs was an elite prospect. So sometimes you just want that stuff in the drafts because I was known as the Henry Ruggs guy before I started making content, and I've grown quite a bit.
You're quite Ruggs-pilled, eh?
What's up?
Quite Ruggs-pilled.
I'm still gonna die on the hill that Henry Ruggs would be a good receiver right now in the NFL if he didn't make dumb mistakes.
I mean, hell, for every Henry Ruggs, for every Zach Wilson, for every Trey Lance, sometimes you get a CeeDee Lamb. Sometimes a CeeDee Lamb falls for your favorite team after you ranked him wide receiver 1, and it's the happiest day of your life.
Yeah,
but I was quite happy on that stream. Not the happiest day of my life, but
specifically what I'm going to point to, just connecting the Ruggs situation to Matthew's situation. I could have been high on Ruggs and said he was an excellent prospect, but having him over CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Jerry Jeudy, for that matter, were objectively that was just wrong. Even if I loved Ruggs, I could have had him wide receiver 4 that year and just said he was my favorite prospect in the class. I love him. I'm going to draft him everywhere, that kind of thing. And to me, that's what Cam Ward saying he's a better prospect than Caleb Williams and Lawrence and all these guys is. You can love Cam Ward. He can be your favorite prospect in this draft. He's just objectively not as good of a prospect as those guys. In my opinion, even if he crushed in the NFL, he just wasn't as good of a prospect.
By the way, Zach, take this as a compliment that we're having side tangents while in your team, because that's how fucking good your team is. There is not much you need to fix. Obviously, we just went over the deal with the G. Wilson, JSN in a second for Genty. I asked you this, but we were in the middle of the conversation. G. Wilson, JSN combined 2 1s and a 2 of value, give or take?
Garrett Wilson and JSN, I would say
one and a 2
I
for
would
JSN,
probably
one for Wilson.
Closer to 2 1s for JSN than 2 1s and a 2, or than 1 1 and a 2.
Okay, so we'll just say 3 1s. 3 1s and a 2 for Genty and a 4th, I think is perfectly fine given the context of this team. Next one, a Brock Purdy, Cooper Kupp, and Tucker Kraft he gave away. And he was able to get Ted McMillan. So let's talk about it. Brock Purdy, obviously the main needle mover there, but you do have Lamar Jackson, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy, and Geno Smith for that matter. You're pretty loaded at quarterback. So it's fine if you get rid of the quarterback equity piece. And if you had to add Kupp and Kraft, especially because you have Laporta and Jonnu already,
and Kelsey,
I'm cool with it. You get a young receiver, the one that has the highest upside of any of the assets that was discussed there. So you agree?
Yeah. I mean, when you're at a position, like if we just can quickly admire the fact that Zach has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 assets in the top 40 overall of my Dynasty startup rankings. That's insane.
He has 6 green labels alone.
6 green labels and 9 top 40 assets.
Yeah, that is fucking
his 7 through 9 are McMillan, McConkey, and Laporta.
Yeah, no, that is quite wild. And then the other 2 deals, I think we can skim through, but Darnold and Njoku Leggett for Matthew Golden. I'd probably lean the Darnold and Njoku Leggett side on face value, but because you have Laporta, because you have
how did you get this many tight ends?
I don't know.
Kraft and Njoku, Laporta.
Then he also traded Pacheco and a first and a third for Laporta. So
okay,
like, either way you slice it, this is the final result, and this final result not only is the best team in your league, but is a league breaker. Like
I've never had a team like this. Never. This is an insane team.
Full transparency, if you guys have gotten a buy sell hold report before, in the buy sell hold report, the recent one that I did, I've actually come up with the new term. When your team is just so damn good that it's not only a contender, not a house money contender, that it can actually break leagues. Shout out P. Millen. You're known as a league breaker.
Yeah.
That's what I clarified.
Your team is going to cause other people's teams to crumble. As in, they're going to make bad trades trying to catch you. They're going to literally leave the league potentially because they don't want to compete with you. And they're going to, like, if you have your foot on someone's throat, are they going to make the best decisions for their dynasty roster? Very good chance they will not.
For sure. By the way, I appreciate you guys staying consistent to the bit for like the last half an hour. This team has gravity. Yeah, it's this team is so large.
This is a girthy team.
This team covers some circumference. That's for sure.
I would not want to go up against this team in an Oklahoma drill. Let's just put it that way.
Oh man, A gaps on lock.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways,
more ways than one.
More ways than one. Anyways, let's move on from Zach's team because it is absolutely freaking loaded. I'm just objectively jealous that you get a team like this because I don't have a team like this because I wish I could have a team like this. Anyways, do we have any other questions? If we do, then we can go
Leatherhead
to the top
mentioned
of the
he
order.
had one.
I refresh the page here. We'll see if anything pops up. Yeah, we got a couple more since we started going here. So Leatherhead has a trade question. We could hop to his really quick. He has a trade where he would be receiving 104 and an early second. I don't know if he specified which early second it was, but same tier regardless for the most part. Justin Fields, Rashee Rice, and an early to mid second next year is what he would be selling. So essentially you're talking about Teteroa McMillan and Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Luther Burden, somebody like that. And for Rashee Rice, Justin Fields, and an early second next year.
I'm trying to find his comments real quick because he also said it was this or another option, I believe. Okay. Possible trade going through today for my 2025 and 2026 first for 102 or Barkley. I know later. Okay. So, by the way, Leatherhead is Jacob, I believe.
Okay.
So, in terms of this specific deal, the second, like, yeah, I would take the 2025 pick, but they're both early to mid type of projections. I think realistically, there isn't as much of a difference for me to really view it as a needle mover. And then it would be Rashee Rice plus Justin Fields and a 2 quarterback start 9 for the 104. Can we look at his team? I'm curious what his current quarterbacks are if he's moving Fields as a quarterback piece.
His current team would have. Is this the team that he's dealing with?
He's the other one. He's
other team.
Balls
deep.
Wait, no, that's not him either.
On.
No, he's working. He's getting the 104 from Balls Deep.
So that means he's this team then?
Should be, but go up.
He doesn't have Rice. Yeah, I just gotta find the team with Rice on it. Okay, this is his team.
Okay,
so Justin Fields and Rashee Rice on it.
Yeah, you got Allen and Lawrence. I'm perfectly cool doing this.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine.
I'm assuming he would be doing it for Hunter.
Either Hunter or McMillan. Either way, I would still like his side of it because I would much rather if you told me Hunter or McMillan for Rashee, I might take those guys straight over the rest of the side versus you also getting an early second rounder, which presumably you can get like a Caleb Johnson or an RJ Harvey or a Luther Burden with.
He said it's the 204, by the way.
Okay. Reference. So worst case, it's Jaden Higgins.
Yeah.
Or Jackson Dart. Like you're in pretty good shape there, in my opinion. So I would definitely take this side of the deal. And Spicy brings up something in the chat that I should address, and then we'll get back to these teams here. Spicy asked, is the site going to have a mock draft simulator? And the site actually has one already. It is officially live. The only reason we use Sleeper for the startup mock that we did at the beginning of the stream is because there is still some kinks and some bugs that we're working out, and we didn't want to have to deal with that on stream. But we will, presumably in the next week or two, pivot all future mock draft stuff to the site. And some cool features, just quickly, I can just outline about the mock draft simulator on the site. It is free. You don't need a subscription. You do need to have made an account, but you can sign up for a free trial and cancel it if for whatever reason you don't have the funds or you don't want to sign up for the site or whatever the case is. It is free to use. You can see that there are drafts going on as we speak. There's 4 left in the 1 quarterback rookie draft. There's 6 left in the Superflex rookie draft. It is a mock draft lobby, just the way that you guys would see on like an ESPN or a Yahoo. Only, here's the major distinction. You go into a bunch of drafts and leave right away, you're going to get shadow banned. It's like if you guys play League of Legends, for example, you know that you get basically you get punishments and you get banned from playing
escalated too,
and that kind of thing. If you just leave games and you abandon your team and you do that, essentially your profile will have like an ELO attached to it, so that if you do a lot of drafts, you can basically go, nah, man, we have a life. If you do a lot of drafts and you are consistently making your picks and not auto drafting and whatnot, then you won't be shadow banned in these kind of leagues. And it's great because then you get really good, accurate ADP information.
This isn't an actual feature coming out, but Corey, could you imagine if, based on like how close to the expert rankings every mock drafter was from a data perspective, they got like a skill rating. So like if they were actually like sharper drafters, like they got put in like harder lobbies going forward.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. You can also, like you can see, you can do startup drafts, 1 quarterback with rookies, Superflex with rookies. You can do private drafts if you just want to send a link to one of your buddies and draft against. The bot system is our rankings as well.
The other thing too,
like there'll be a Corey bot, a Danny bot, etc.
So the public drafts, like you can see, if you guys are being dickheads and missing your picks and leaving early, like you said, you're going to lose ELO. You're going to get shadow banned off that. If you do get shadow banned, the other option would be doing the draft simulator. The draft simulator, like Corey said, would be sorted by all of our bots rankings. The Mason bot, the Danny bot, the Bush bot, the Avery, like all the experts on the site are going to be having bots that draft based according to their rankings. So you can get the most realistic experience. Guess what? If you're starting a dynasty startup and myself and Corey are in the league, maybe it's in your best interest to sort it by the Danny bot or the Bush bot, just so you're dealing with that more of that type of league market.
No, you would not, Aaron. If you go into this lobby and you're like, okay, 6 more to join, I join the queue, and I'm like, actually, you know what? I don't have time to do a draft right now, and you just leave here, you would not have any negative impact on your situation. It would just be if you were actually in the draft, you loaded into it, and, it didn't work for you, and you're like, I don't feel like drafting, and I just want to leave, and I don't want to do this anymore. So,
no way Bush quoted a league. To be fair, if he didn't say the League of Legends game misconduct, I would have just said the same thing COD related. I'm sure Corey didn't want to hear that anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we both play our Virgin game, and we move on from it. For what it's worth, I barely play League of Legends anymore. It's just one of the only games I've played consistently over the last couple of years. Anyways,
what was your peak?
Not high, like platinum.
Fair enough.
Platinum league player is pretty dust, like relative to the rest of league players.
Or remember, didn't Bailey say he was like challenger or something? Whatever.
Yeah, he was challenger, which is really unbelievably good. Like top 3 to 500 in a world where there's millions of players on this game.
Yeah. No. Shout out Bailey, bro. You're a G.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get into Sparker's team review here. My first Dynasty startup last year focused on youth. My main question is what to do with the 201. I can trade it for 205, 301, 302, and I think I can go from worst to first. He has listed here. So getting into Sparker, where are you? What is your team name? Fuego. Classic Spanish.
Hey, Spanish. Fire.
Yes, there you go.
DJ
Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young is the quarterbacks here. It is a 2-quarterback, 10 team. Start 10, PPR, half tight end, premium, and he does have the 101 this year, so we will be adding Ashton Genty to this team. This is a good looking squad, man. Obviously, elephant in the room is that you probably should sell one of your tight ends, but I think this is a really good looking team.
Yeah. And maybe the other thing I would ask you is you take Genty 101, you put him in at your RB1 slot. I think, B-Rob, Benson, Spears are fine depth pieces. Can you go and add maybe B-Rob plus Garrett Wilson to see if you can get a better running back and a worse comparable receiver?
Yeah, I think that would make some sense. One thing I would be okay doing.
You can also draft the running back at 201, but I think
yeah, I was going to say I would maybe get aggressive with this team as well. With 201, if Henderson starts to slip a little bit, I would maybe get a little aggressive. Or Judkins too. If Judkins goes 109, 110, something like that, you could maybe get aggressive with that 201.
Who needs a tight end in this league?
Let's take a look. Tight end rank number 10.
Yeah,
this guy's picking 109. Maybe Judkins slides to him at that point in time. He also has Bijan. I mean, you probably won't get Bijan from, but you could also just swap you could maybe see how close you can get to Taylor even potentially.
Well, I was just going to say, hey, guess what? How close is Hawkinson to the 109 right now?
In a half tight end premium, I would say he's probably a little bit less valuable, give or take.
Look, I was just saying it for if Warren and Loveland are gone, this guy might panic, and you might be able to sell Hawkinson for the 109, even if you had to add a piece.
Well, he also might just want Hawkinson because he has a competitive team.
That's a good point,
too. Be like, I don't want a rookie tight end. They miss, blah, blah, blah. Like, you could sell him Hawkinson straight for 109. I would definitely, Sparker, go to this guy and see if you can sell him Hawkinson for the 109 straight. Because if you can get 109 and you also have 201, now you're talking you can easily get up for Henderson or maybe even Hampton potentially.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like if you can get a draft pick piece for Hawkinson and then also use that draft pick piece plus another draft pick piece to go and consolidate that draft pick piece. Like we're talking, like you said, Hampton range, Hunter range, legit needle mover. That would be your best way to get another green label player. Can you check the team also that has the 9th rated tight end room? By the way, the best feature on the site for us when we're doing our team reviews is seeing the rank in the league. So that makes it a lot easier for us. This guy is literally called the Empire. He has Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. He's got Amon St. Brown, Devon Achane, and he's got fuck all at tight end. That's your guy.
For the 110?
Sign me up. Either of those two teams.
Yeah. And again, maybe he's just going to be like, nah, dude, I'm good. I'm just going to take Loveland or Warren. But some dynasty players are like, I hate rookie tight ends. Rookie tight ends suck. So,
yeah. For sure. We are on the same page there.
But yeah, this is a good look. Once you add Genty to this team and you add, let's say, worst case scenario, you can't move Hawkinson. You have to pick a 201, blah, blah, blah. You take Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey with it's the 112, it's the 111, actually.
Yeah.
It's
that's what I mean.
It's the 10-team league. It's the 201 is the 111. So you're going to get RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson there, no problem. And moving from 201 to 108, 109 to go get Judkins would also be pretty easy because it's essentially the 111.
It's very simple for me. If you can move Hawkinson, you can get another pick and you can consolidate said pick. Your team is going to rise from number 5 very easily.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. You look at a team like this guy's team is
another
shit.
One.
This guy's team is shit.
He's got the number 4 tight end core in your league. Oh shoot. So nobody has tight ends except for the top 3 teams.
Well, what I was going to say is, can you sell the 201 straight for Christian McCaffrey on this team?
Can you sell Hawkinson for McCaffrey?
Like, this guy has a horrid team. He should be wanting to sell McCaffrey right now.
Yeah, this guy's team sucks. He doesn't have any picks either. Holy crap.
And this guy is Chase Brown and Derrick Henry. And Pat Freiermuth is his tight end 1. So, can you give him 201 plus TJ Hawkinson plus another piece for Derrick Henry and Chase Brown?
Sorry, what tight end core is his rank? The number 1 or the number 2 tight end core, or is he number 3?
He's number 2.
Show me what number 1 and number 3 look like.
Bowers and McBride and Kraft.
That's why we got a bunch of shitters with no tight ends, because this guy fucking robs all of them.
Yeah, when you blow the eardrums out, you're gonna need to back up from your mic.
Sorry. Who's number 3?
I mean, you're not yelling now.
Who's number 3?
Number 3 is let me see, what do we got here? The People's Champ with George Kittle and Kyle Pitts, which is 2 top 12 tight ends. So
the number 3 tight end core is Kittle and Pitts. That shows you the fact that the guy, first of all, the guy that has Bowers, McBride, that guy's just an asshole.
Good luck trying to sell some of those guys for him. But I mean, in a half tight end premium, start 10, you can play both of those players every single week, Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. For what it's worth, you can as well. But you already have good receivers and whatnot.
We're happy that he wants to hoard tight ends, because guess what? Now people around the league are more desperate for tight ends. So we're happy if he wants to waste his roster value having 3 fucking tight ends just to have them, just to show them off. Shout out AJ, by the way. You're one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the type of team. Try and move Hawkinson if you can't. Again, you could reasonably keep both of those players, but ideally you can move Hawkinson into running back assets, or you can move Hawkinson into pick capital and use that to consolidate, use that to get more running backs. Whatever the case is, we can probably move on to the next team here. which is from, oh, it's actually a trade question and also a $22 donation, which we really appreciate on a trade question. And I'll refresh this one last time if we do get more stuff coming in. Boduke, is this a Boduke? Parallel universe or something?
Is this Matthew?
Maybe.
He said he was always in the land chat talking.
Anyways, plus I give.
Shut up, Boduke.
So this is the trade that he has on the table right now. He'd be receiving Bijan Robinson and Trey McBride in exchange for Malik Neighbors and Sam Laporta. You can see that Bijan and Neighbors in my one quarterback. This has a redraft trade for some reason. Maybe it's not redraft. I don't know, but it has redraft listed here.
Well, it has plus. I give a 2020. If you're also giving a 2027 late first, then hold.
This must be a dynasty trade, or maybe it's a keeper league, but I don't know. Anyways, this is I'm assuming this is a dynasty trade, and you just misfilled this out or whatever, but.
Respectfully, I'm not also giving a 2027 first. I already had to think about it when it was Neighbors and Laporta for Bijan and McBride. If you also have to throw in a first, absolutely not. Hold Neighbors and Laporta.
Yeah, I think, when you think about raw point per game production difference between Neighbors or between Laporta and McBride, it's not going to be that much of a difference to the point that it's like you should throw in a first. I think if you told me this trade was as is, no first round pick invested into it.
There's Steven. That's Boduke.
It's dynasty. Okay, let me just look at his team really quick because I want to see what the situation is.
I just don't agree with the value
core and no running backs.
I just don't agree with the value though. I have Neighbors over Bijan, and I wouldn't give Laporta plus a first for McBride.
Okay, for some reason it's not letting me see his team. But let's
press the plus button. Press the plus button.
Okay, yeah. Let's say you're trying to. Yeah, it's not pulling it from the My Teams feature because maybe it's not linked or something. Regardless, let's say you're doing this because you have such good receivers and you need a running back. I am very high on Bijan Robinson. I think he can be a legendary running back. I would do this trade without the late first in it if you absolutely were trying to get a running back out of this deal.
I think that's reasonable. If you want to do it without the late first, adding a first for this is there's no point for me.
Yeah, for sure. So if it's just as is here, I'd be okay doing this trade, but with Neighbors and a late first in. If it was like a mid-second, would you do it? Let's say it's Neighbors, Laporta, and a mid-second in 27.
I don't think you should have to. You're giving the best player in the deal.
The way I view Neighbors versus Robinson is like closer to a wash. I do technically have
it's
Neighbors
not a wash, bro.
Higher, but it's close to a wash to me.
It's not a wash, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, you have Neighbors ahead of CD Lamb. So
I also have Bijan RB1 though.
Yeah, and that's fine.
He's a dude, man. And I seriously think we're about to get, if you go back and look at game logs of peak Alvin Kamara, peak Dalvin Cook, peak Christian McCaffrey, that's going to be Bijan's next 3 to 4 calendar years.
Sure.
Like we're about to get the best of this dude.
Yeah. What if Neighbors is a 1,700-yard receiver? That mutes everything.
It does, but like legendary running back trumps.
Tell him, Matthew.
5 wide receiver. Yeah, I mean,
I'm fucking with you, by the way.
In my startup rankings, I have Neighbors above CD just because he's 22 years old.
Then rank him above Jefferson.
I can't. Jefferson.
That's what I thought, because Lamb should be above Jefferson, but that's another topic for another day.
CD's the best prospect since Joe Burrow. That's funny. Anyways, this trade, I'm probably taking the Neighbors Laporta side if you have to add a second or a 27 first. So that's how I'm going to mark it.
I don't know how Lamb got underrated.
What's up?
I don't know how Lamb's got underrated.
I mean, he's not underrated. He's still very, very good.
Lamb's peak season is 23.7 PPR points per game.
And we're not doing this. So we were 2 hours.
We don't need to. We're dude. I'm trying to get off and eat, so we're not doing this. But also, you guys are outrageous for not having.
I'm not going to pretend that I'm not on an island saying that.
There's other people in chat saying that. That's why I'm saying it makes no sense to me. Like Lamb's, we do realize that Lamb's peak season actually outscored what Jamar Chase did this year. Again, we're not having this full conversation. We're 2.5 hours into his stream, and we've probably done this like fucking 7 times this offseason.
Yeah, we have done this 7 times this offseason. And also, is Jay Metal giving me shit for Amon-Ra over Justin Jefferson in redraft this year because they scored exactly the same amount of fantasy points?
Who?
Jefferson versus St. Brown.
Oh.
Like I did rank St. Brown over Jefferson, but it was 18.7 fantasy points for Jefferson this year, points per game, and St. Brown at 18.6. So they were essentially the same exact caliber of redraft asset.
Neighbors is not on CD's level, please.
No, he's not yet. He's not yet.
Stop this, young
I would
man.
say he could get there because he's very young still, but he's not there yet.
Sure. The guy that had 1,700 yards and 12 touchdowns literally in 2023. Like, are we just forgetting what CeeDee Lamb is? Like a clear top 3 receiver in the league. Nate, if I didn't have 5 Lamb shares and 1 Jefferson share, I would. They're literally back to back in my rankings.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Patty Mills. Again, in Dynasty, if I was in a startup, Neighbors allows me to go young if I want to. Because
then take him over Jefferson.
Huh?
Take him over Jefferson then.
I can't. Jefferson's the best receiver in the league.
That's why I don't get this. It's like we're playing fantasy. It's like if we're willing to take Chase over Jefferson, who we've saying Jefferson's the best receiver in the league, when Lamb also has the benefit of a situation.
I don't disagree with you. That I think Neighbors over Lamb, I should have him over Jefferson. I don't disagree with you with that take.
I just think like it's not just you. It's just the market sentiment. It's like, oh yeah, Lamb is slightly beyond or after those guys. I don't understand why that's the case when Lamb's peak season is really up there with anyone. Yeah, sorry. You can get in on this, Avery, but like I just think it's incongruent if we're arguing Neighbors over one and not the other. Sorry. That's the last thing I'll say because we could spend another hour on this. And my camera went out. Perfect time.
Yeah, Danny's camera died, so we can pretend that he doesn't exist right now. I can say that Malik Neighbors is over CeeDee Lamb for me. No. Anyways, we're going to wrap this thing up, obviously, because we've been going for 2.5 hours. If you guys want to check out the Danny's camera was sick of this. If you guys want to check out the startup mock, obviously we did that the first hour and 15. We've been answering questions ever since. If you guys want to get questions answered on future live streams, head on over to the link that's in the live chat right now. You can get a team review. You can get a trade question, whatever you guys want to get. Check those out. And we will be back tomorrow. I believe I'll be tackling the rookie risk ratings. If you guys followed us during the redraft season, I did risk ratings, and I did them actually for the Dynasty calendar last year as well. We basically kind of outline all the risks that you have in rookie drafts with these players. And then I think I also outlined some of the riskiest first-round guys, some of the riskiest second-round guys, and vice versa. So be on the lookout for that video. That will be live sometime tomorrow. But appreciate you guys for joining us. Leave a like if you enjoyed the stream, all that good stuff. And check out everything we got going on. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.
I put up peace signs.
There you go.